How's it going, everyone, and welcome to another episode of No Excuses on VTWProductions.com and YouTube.com with your favorite show hosts, Still.
Fenurian.
And Volatil, and we're here to bring you the latest news and commentary on the video games industry for the week. But first of all, if you would like to get involved with the show, you can send us email at noexcusesvtw@gmail.com, or you can follow us on the Twitter at noexcusesvtw, or you can join us in our Discord server and chat with us and other listeners to the show at any time, which you can most easily do by going to vtwproductions.com and clicking on the show logo on any of our recent show posts, which will link you directly to our Discord server.
Yes, indeed.
And thankfully, all of us are here this time. I don't have to be traumatized again.
Last week was a bit of a train wreck.
Did you tell Fern the scare you had at the start of the show?
Oh, I listened to it.
Oh, dear.
Yeah. So, last week ended up really fun for me because I was dying in the morning and working. Because, you can't get away from the ick even if you do have to work. And then just as showtime was coming up closer and I was starting to feel a lot better and maybe I would be able to palm the job off and actually go and do the show. Nope. Suddenly I got to do a 2-hour round trip to one of the local cattle properties. Twice. So, yeah. That was fun. Anywho, up on the stream today, I'm going to be playing a bit of Viscera Cleanup Detail. It's basically what happens after the local first-person shooter goes through. Some poor chump has to come and clean up the mess. That's basically it. That's the whole game, really, is you cleaning up the mess with your weird squid mob.
It's a real job, actually. I was listening to the radio, not because I make a habit of listening to the radio, but because the radio is usually on in the background at work, and I overheard a caller into to whatever radio station it was, and the guy was saying that his job, his business, is basically on retainer for the New Zealand police force in the area, and they basically get called in to clean up crime scenes.
Oh my.
After the police have been through and done everything, somebody's got to haul. He's got to scrub away all of the blood and all of that stuff. So, yeah,
it's a
real thing.
Job, but someone's got to do it.
Yep.
But yeah, they don't have to use weird alien squid mops. Look at this thing. Look at it. Just somebody couldn't be bothered to animate a proper mop, I guess. Right. Gaming for my week. Well, actually, I'm not going to start with gaming. I'm going to put it out there very tentatively and hopefully not completely jinx myself, but my work flood might soon be over, and getting really excited about that.
Can play Vidya again?
I can play Vidya again. I can do all sorts of stuff again when I have time. This time is something I've completely lacked. So, not going to get too ahead of myself just yet because we don't have that new driver yet, but it's getting close.
Yeah, you've managed to get the driver to sell their soul.
Yep.
So
now we just got to get them across the line. What else? What have I really done this week? Not a whole lot, unfortunately. It's been getting really into our silly season. We've got the local show coming up this weekend, which means, well, lots of big family events, really. You get a few drunks, but largely it's not too bad on that front.
The show.
The show.
Yeah, does it have capital letters on it?
It does. It is one of the big social events of the year that does not involve gratuitous drinking. Only a little bit. Just a little bit of drinking.
Is it modestly gratuitous then?
Yes. All the drunks are in a pen, but that's only a small part of the event. It's basically a reason for everyone in the community to kind of come together and show off a little bit, go on pay way too much for some carnival rides, as you do with these things. And basically fork all their hard-earned money over to weird drug-addled carnies. Sounds about right, doesn't it?
Yeah, more or less.
For gaming, I tried Dauntless again. Now,
Ugh.
Vol touched on, well, he hit a lot of my complaints about it really smack on the head last week. The art design is kind of blah, the controls are all over the place. It's just half-assed is probably the best way to describe it. So I tried to play a little bit more, see if it gets better. Good news, at least once you get the fifth monster, it starts running away. Bad news.
Which isn't a good thing.
It's not a good news. So, yeah, where to even begin with this mess? The game is soulless, I'll just say that. Monster
It is
Hunter,
very hollow.
you've got to compare it to Monster Hunter, particularly Monster Hunter World, and Monster Hunter feels like a active living ecology. The monsters behave like animals. They adapt to what you're doing as you're doing it. And, yeah, basically it's a lot more organic. They even run away at suitable points like a real animal would. Dauntless? No. No, everything just feels dead and by the numbers. So, we actually had a bit of a discussion this morning. I tried to figure out how to equip the guns, because I'd unlocked it, and apparently it never tells you how to equip them. Because you can't go to the vendor and equip them there like you can for every other weapon. No, apparently you've got to go to a part of the menu which isn't labelled at all. You don't even know it's there unless you start mashing buttons.
I didn't have the impression that it was labelled. I worked out that it was there by inferring that it would be insane if it wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just went there and pressed the relevant buttons, and lo and behold, it was there. But yeah, the problem is really that the design doesn't match the UI.
No.
So what Fern had failed to realize is that the loadout menu actually allows you to change your loadout, because they add a equip button to the crafting interface as well, so that when you're going through the list of craftables, if you already have it, instead of crafting you can equip.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, you can do your equipping there, and apparently Fern had been running there to do it. You can do it from your loadout menu, selecting from all of the stuff you have available to you in your inventory, which appears to be everything that you own. There is no stash.
No.
The thing is that when you select your weapon, it brings up a list of the weapons you have equipped, which is one weapon. And so that weapon is highlighted by default, and you cannot move that highlight because there's only one thing to select. So you've got to press the button again to bring up your change the weapon that you've got equipped thing. So that brings up all of your weapons.
Yes.
The thing is that for some reason the guns are on a different vendor.
Yes.
The gun crafting is on a different vendor, because it seems you craft them bit by bit or something. But yeah, it's not intuitive. In fact, very little about the game is intuitive. If you try and rely on intuition, you're going to just make horrible mistakes all the time.
So, yeah, I picked along, and because someone told me that, yes, the game actually does get better as you go along. That person is a liar.
Well, it gets incrementally better.
Yeah.
It just doesn't get good enough to justify playing it.
Yeah. There's just no real point I felt fully challenged.
It's a fine video game so long as you never intend to ever play it.
Yes.
I'm not sure how much of an endorsement that is.
And not a good one. So yeah, I never felt challenged, I felt annoyed. I'm not sure what else there is to say other than what Vol said last week, though.
Yeah, like I went on, I played up to the fifth monster as well, and it just I lost my temper with the game. I seriously did, and I quit out. I force quit out and deleted it from my PlayStation. That's how mad I was. There's nothing to commend it. It really does not. It's a game that does not deserve your time, because it's put so little effort into, allowing itself to be played by you.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it wants you to suffer.
It doesn't want you to play the game and enjoy it. It wants you to suffer.
Yeah, I found it unacceptable. As a game, it was unacceptable. The first 4 monsters are all trivial and pointless.
And boring.
They don't do anything except sit there and slap you occasionally, as I've talked about in the past.
Mm-hmm.
But the 5th monster is more in line with the Monster Hunter one. It has the same sorts of problems of soullessness, lack of interaction with the environment, and generally feeling like an MMO mob that just sort of idles and then slaps at you occasionally.
Yeah.
It doesn't have behavior as such; it just heads towards you and fights.
Yeah.
But the 5th, while the 5th one, it's got some interesting bits to it. Like they feel like ideas that have been lifted from other places and plonked onto this thing. But at least the monster, it makes a spirited attempts to hit you, unlike the other one.
Yeah.
But it's not cool.
No.
And the hitboxes are all Plesioth tier. Like,
yes.
I had a number of situations where I was blatantly standing away from the monster, and the monster would charge at me, stop, and I would fall over where I was from being hit, although there was clearly a massive space between me and the monster.
Mm-hmm.
It was very frustrating because there was no safe gauge. But I mean, Monster Hunter does that with plenty of monsters as well that have wonky hitboxes. It's just that this is sort of an insult to injury situation because everything else about it is so bad.
Yeah.
And I fought this monster.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you get 25 minutes to fight a monster. I spent the first 10 minutes fighting the monster, and then I fought the monster for 5 minutes, and then I spent like the next 9.5 minutes finding the monster again after it ran away, because it doesn't run away, it just disappears into the ground and appears somewhere else arbitrary on the map that you have no way of tracking.
Yep.
I mean, I tried the whole following the flames thing that Fern told me was the way you were supposed to do it. It doesn't work.
No, it doesn't work.
Flames don't lead. They don't lead anywhere at all.
No.
And you just consume them, and then they're gone for good. Oh, great.
Yeah.
Marvelous.
And that's what I thought at the time, is because these would lead you to the monster, but no, they don't.
My impression, and this is not a wise impression or a rational impression, so much as desperate pattern seeking of the human mind, is that percentage gauge in the corner gives you some hint as to how close you are to it. But
maybe?
I don't know if that's true.
I never could exactly figure out what that was.
I only noticed that it had gotten high at the last minute, and I lost my temper, at the end of that last minute. That's why it was the last one.
Yes.
So, yeah, I've deleted that. I have no intention of ever touching Dauntless again. It is a bad game.
I'm not going back to it. I haven't deleted it yet. I actually managed to kill that 5th monster, but after that, because that fight...
I didn't kill it. I timed out.
I only just managed to kill it in time because I spent so long searching for the damn thing, but there's just... I feel no incentive to play it anymore. Like, Monster Hunter, there's always something new to come up to. The next monster is going to be something new and interesting. Like, even Great Jagras or Kulu Yaku. Basic monsters though they be, they are still interesting. So, yeah.
Yeah, I had no interest in it.
No.
I just can't. I can't imagine playing it at any length of time. It's just not. It's not fun after having played Monster Hunter. Even the weapons don't feel right.
No, they don't.
Aside from the additional mechanics that they've added in terms of like throwing it and whatnot, the axe is clearly designed to be a clone of the greatsword, but it does not feel good. It does not. It just feels very flimsy. It doesn't have the sense of weight that the greatsword does. It doesn't have that sort of that heft.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't pay off the same way when you manage to land a hit. It's not as satisfying. Like, because getting your true strike to hit all the way through is a really satisfying moment in Monster Hunter, because of the proportionally the damage you do is enormous, and it's hard to land that strike. In Dauntless, there's no such experience, because there's no, that last strike doesn't have much weight to it. It's just another strike. It just happens to do more damage.
Yep. So my weapons
really not.
Yeah, I tried, I think it's the dual sickles, I think they're called, basically the Kratos weapons, the chain blades, as well as I tried the hammer. Now, the chain blades are boring. It's just mash button until monster winds up attack, press R1 to backflip out. Once the monster stops attacking, press R1 to backflip back in again and continue whacking. That's it. Now, the hammer is a lot cooler, I think. It's got some really cool ideas behind it. You do some basic combos with it, and then it's got a rocket booster attached to it. When you press the button for the rocket booster, it depends on where you are in the swing as to what sort of action you take. Which is a rather cool idea. It's just that the whole weapon just kind of feels a bit clunky. See, that's the thing that really annoys me about Dauntless, is under all of it, there are some really cool ideas.
There's not enough cool ideas to make a game, though, and the execution is very subpar.
Exactly. Yeah, they've got just enough cool ideas to kind of get your interest, and that's about as far as it goes.
It's very frustrating. Every time you think you're about to find the beef is just not there.
Yeah. I'm not sure if I didn't check if you mentioned it last week. Just the level of marketing in this game is absurd as well.
Yeah, I didn't mention it because I don't play enough free to play games to know if this is unusual or if this is all of them are like this. It's not special at all.
Well, it is on the mobile market. Mobile
Yeah,
games are really bad like this, but honestly, you can't walk across the hub. You can't log into the game without advertising its shop. You go to a vendor and there's like 3 different places you can access the shop.
The one that got me was that there's a quest that teaches you to access the shop.
Yes.
It's like the quest is open the shop and get your prize.
Oh, look, it's puke brown dye. Yay.
Just what I always wanted.
I wanted to look like I had a really bad night. Yes. So, yeah. Yeah, neat ideas in there, but come on. Just go play Monster Hunter. It's much better. Any Monster Hunter.
I feel I had a sort of strange feeling like it was so bad that the money that I spent paying for the better game felt more justified.
Yeah.
It's like, I know I got a real good deal on Monster Hunter, and the way that I know is that this is what would have happened if I hadn't paid any money.
This is what Monster Hunter could have been had Capcom not course corrected.
Oh dear. There's been tons of media come out over the past couple of weeks for Iceborne, and it looks really cool. I mean, I think that there is such a thing as pun was not intended. Thank you very much. But I think that there is such a thing as too much. They could overstep the line, but I don't think they have yet.
No, they haven't yet.
Most of the stuff that I've seen looks really cool. Velkhana looks cool. I've always loved Legiana as a monster. She's probably my favorite of the normie monsters. And she's getting a new version as well.
Yep.
Which looks real cool. Everything about it looks really cool. The new particle effects for ice look cool. All of the weapon stuff that they've shown pretty much looks cool. Yep. I'm sort of a bit. I'm not 100% sold on the new emphasis on the slinger.
Yeah.
I've never been a huge fan of the slinger to begin with because I'm a greatsword main, meaning to actually sheathe my sword and take my slinger out takes half an hour. So I just don't use it very much. I could, in that time, I could bull in, tackle through, and break a horn or something. Or I could back off and fart about with my slinger ammo.
Well, now you've got the choice of slinging into a monster and suplexing your sword into their face.
Yeah, that seems like when you give me these options, like I can stab my sword and then jump on it and drive it through their face and break its face that way. Like that seems to me more appealing than jumping on it and firing a slinger shot up its schnoz. Because my experience with slinger ammo is it does 2 damage.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing that's really sort of confusing me when they talk about, oh, you with the great sword you can fire powerful slinger shots. It's like, yeah, but if you make a super powered slinger shot that does twice as much damage as your regular slinger shot, that's 4 damage.
That's
Like,
the damage, yes.
I don't care. I really don't. And it's like the thing I think that showed it most starkly actually was the comparing the Dragon Piercer with the Thousand Dragons. Now, Thousand Dragons is a ridiculously overblown name for putting an apple on the end of your arrow before you fire it, which is what it looks like to me. You get, one of those nuts and you jam it on into the slinger claw and bolt that to the front of your bow and then fire the 1,000 dragons. Like, the amount of time you spend mucking about with that, why not fire a Dragon Piercer? Does it do more damage than a Dragon Piercer? Because it's a Dragon Piercer that takes an additional type of ammo.
Yep. So
I'm not sold on it. I don't need it to like the game. I don't need to be sold on it because the slinger is already a mechanic and I already don't give a toss. But the whole, oh well, you can use slinger ammo as part of your arrow shots, like that has to do an awfully powerful effect in order to be justified, because I could fire a Dragon Piercer.
Yeah. I'm interested to see what they're doing with the gun lance, because you can take your slinger ammo and jam it into your gun lance and use it to augment your wyvern stake. But knowing my luck, I'll do that, and then the monster will just step slightly out of the way, so avoid the attack.
Yeah, and if you hadn't, then your wyvern stake would have been on target.
Yeah. It happens that often.
That's the thing with targeting tough abilities that have a long wind-up time. You never go off too early. You always go off slightly too late. Yes. Something that makes the animation take even longer just seems like you're asking for trouble.
Thankfully, it looks like the combo is at least still the same length, so there's that.
I don't know. I've never liked the slinger, and it's going to be hard for them to convince me to like it. I think it's all that there is to it, really.
We shall see.
I don't buy it. It's not cool. But yeah, there's a lot that I want to know about, numbers and stuff as well. Obviously, like, that's that long, super ultra long range shot with the heavy bowgun. Like, how much damage is that? Like, you on one hand, it seems like you can do it with no personal harm, and on the other hand, it takes forever.
Yeah.
Like, it's not actually cool if it's just a pulling mechanic. But if it does too much damage, well, there's no risk involved. So why would it? Like, the whole thing seems a little bit odd to me.
Yep. Is it going to have a stupidly long cooldown? Maybe.
If it did, then it's just going to end up getting saved for a rainy day and then nobody uses it.
Yeah.
That's the thing, right? There seems to be a lot pulling against its use. I don't really quite know how to process it. It's
The rest of the gun, however, seems to have gotten a whole lot of extra DACA at least, so that's something.
Yeah, I think that, generally speaking, I think the heavy bowgun is a cool weapon. It's exactly as clunky as it should be for basically being able to be heavy in Monster Hunter. It's just that when it comes to turning that into a sniper rifle, I can't internalize it. I can't make it make sense in my head, because you've got no risk, but in order to justify the amount of time you spend on it, it needs to do a lot of damage. But I mean, if it does a lot of damage, like, how much is a lot of damage? Does it do greatsword damage? Does it do more than greatsword damage? I don't know. So
yeah, but
there's a lot that remains to be seen about how that's all going to shake down.
We'll see. Yeah, we got that new trailer come out the other day, which gave us our first look at Tigrex, the speedy boy. Tigrex has been a long time request to get in this game, and I'm glad to see him in there. He's going to make everybody cry. That's what he does.
Yeah, I guess the thing that you don't understand about Tigrex is that Tigrex is just a crap monster if you aren't a Monster Hunter fan.
Yeah.
Like, because he's just a thug. That's his entire gimmick, is he's a thug.
Yep.
He will run at you, and he won't ever stop running at you.
And he screams a lot.
Yeah. Whereas, like, Kizu is interesting, Tigrex is not. That's the way it looks to me, a non-Monster Hunter person.
Mm-hmm. Well, we'll see
not-
what they give him. Like I wouldn't be surprised if they give him a facelift.
Yeah, I think that he needs to be given some really cool stuff, because, like, in the sort of eternal debate on who is the cooler cat, Nagakuga or Tigrex, like, it seems to be a no competition win for Nagakuga being cooler, because he does stuff, and all that Tigrex seems to do is run at you and then run at you again and then run at you again.
Yeah.
That appears to more or less be his shtick.
Mm-hmm. They also
And then
announced a really cool monster, which is Glavenus, who only appeared in Monster Hunter Generations, the last game.
Yeah, that's interesting, because a lot of people thought the Generations monsters were out of the question. I don't understand why, because I don't know how the series work. But that is what I gather a lot of people had thought.
Yeah, that's right. They can be rather weird with their side titles. Like, you have really cool monsters in the side titles that never see light of day in the main series.
Yeah, but I am looking forward to wielding a Glavenus.
Yeah, you basically just chop his tail off and stick it on a pole for the greatsword. There's nothing really else to it. That's about it. So I'm really starting to get kind of hyped for Iceborne.
Yeah, I'm pretty hyped for it. I'm more hyped for it even after having played Dauntless, because Dauntless was such an atrocity.
I can definitely agree with that. What else this week? That's really been about it for me. It's starting to thin out, and hopefully I'll actually be able to start doing stuff again very soon, but it'll probably be another week or two before anything on that front happens. Got to go through the licensing, because government, like, they love their paperwork.
Well, that's how they make their money. That's how bureaucracy works.
Yeah. Can't do anything conveniently. That would be impossible.
That would defeat the purpose of the bureaucracy.
Yes, it would.
The bureaucracy must expand to meet the needs of the expanding bureaucracy.
That sounds awfully familiar, and I can't place it.
It's a quote, but it was voiced by Leonard Nimoy in Civilization 4.
That's right. All right.
I don't know where the original quote is from. Just that Spock said it.
Yeah, Spock said it, so therefore it is now attributed to Spock. That's just how these things work. All right, so that's my week. Vol, why don't you take the reins?
Right. So, yeah, I did talk about Dauntless last week, and I played some more before the show in order to participate in Fern's little recap, and that was the last Dauntless I'll ever play. So that was that's the tail end of that one.
I have to say, actually, my brother put me onto this, saying, "Hey, you should play Dauntless. It's free." I told him I know about Dauntless, and then I told him, "Why did you make me play that? It was awful."
Anyway, so that was a thing that I played. I've continued playing Death End Request. We're doing the traditional, well, you've done some dungeons, now backtrack through the dungeons phase of the game at this point. So my motivation to play it is a little bit lower than it was, but the story continues to bang on, so I'm going to continue playing it. I really am at a loss at this point, but it seems to me like there must be some sort of time shenanigans or something as well. I don't know. But there's a lot of weird occult crap going on that doesn't have a good explanation as of yet. So I'm very intrigued to see if they're even capable of tying a story together, because it seems like it's gotten ridiculously overcomplicated at this point.
I'd say their track record says it all, really, but their track record is Neptunia.
Well, the track record that I'm aware of in detail is Neptunia, but the thing is that they've got more of a pedigree than that. They do have premium content as well, and Death End Request falls under their sort of premium brand, where Neptunia is the brand that they trot out every time they've got some free time and a couple of spare staff. So yeah, Neptunia games, they don't cost much to make.
No.
Relatively speaking, they use the same assets in every game, the same characters. But it's just a question of, do we have a ridiculous story that we want to tell that we think will wash? That's what it comes down to. Yeah, because there is no story too ridiculous for Neptunia. I'm just waiting for the FGO crossover.
Oh, it's going to happen.
I'm pretty sure that they've crossed over with Azulane, I think.
Yeah.
Or was it Kantai Collection? It was one of those Ship Girl ones. They did a crossover. At any rate, yeah. So I'm still enjoying that. As always, I'm more enjoying the story than I'm enjoying the gameplay. The gameplay is pretty weak, but I mean that's what I expect. There's only so much that you can get out of a JRPG these days. Nobody really innovates on that anymore. And I don't know if I'm really looking for innovation anyway. It seems like that's sort of putting the cart before the horse in a way. So what else have I done? I suppose FGO is, as usual, my staple game when I don't have time to play games. So Onigashima is this week, and it's Onigashima again. It's mostly been interesting to me in a sense of contrast, because last time I did Onigashima, it was brutally difficult. The reason being that I didn't have much to speak of in terms of power. Yeah. So fighting 6 million hit point Onis was pretty much out of the question for me. It was not merely like
snack.
Yeah, in Rashomon this year, I could bring down the 6 million, but it was not time efficient. In terms of the amount of time I would spend playing the game per BP was not a good expenditure of my free time. So I ended up doing the 3 million rather than the 6 million. Like, I was willing to eat the inefficiency in BP expenditure in favor of spending less time playing a mobile game, because I don't actually want necessarily to constantly be doing the same content over and over. But last time Onigashima was the same way. Like, eventually I devised ways of bringing down the 6 million hit point Onis, but it was not time efficient to do so, and was unstable, and sometimes everything went horribly wrong. So I used the 3 million one there as well. This time, the 6 million is a walkover. Like, now that I've got tools available to me, and not just that, but because I've been playing so much longer, I understand better how to use the tools that are available to me. It's been vastly easy, almost trivial, especially since I've got the experience from before. I know which things work well, which things don't, when it's better to just ignore bonuses. Like, in a lot of cases, it's better to ignore event bonuses and just use Uriali against certain targets. In other cases, it's better to just use Kintoki, even if he doesn't have class advantage, because his bonus is so high. There are lots of little quirks like that to the way this event is constructed. But by and large, the difficulty is trivial to me now, which doesn't necessarily make it boring, because this is, to me, has become sort of a victory lap situation. It's not even quite catharsis. It's sort of, like I said, it's a victory lap situation. Like, because I fought tooth and nail last time, and now I'm getting my dues. So yeah, I'm enjoying that. I'm going to be very glad to have another copy of Sumo, because Sumo is an incredibly good all-purpose offensive CE. And there's only one copy per Onigashima. Well, one copy guaranteed. In theory, if you farmed long enough, you could get more than that, because the Rakshasa difficulty farming free quests and drop a copy. though I've never seen it happen. So I don't have any good evidence that that's really true.
I had one
But,
drop off a story mission last night.
That's what I mean.
So-
The other mission, the ones
Yes.
low cut, they can drop them, but they can drop them for people who are not me.
Yeah, that sounds more like it.
But yeah, I'm enjoying that. Hopefully, I can be a bit more efficient this time than I was last time. I don't know whether or not I'll clear the shop largely because this time the shop has a humongous amount of stuff in it, way
It
more.
does. Crazy.
But yeah, because I can absolutely wreck the levels now, and because I have 2 MLB Hot Spring Seas plus 2 loose other ones, means that my base damage when I don't have drop CEs, which I don't because I'm not rolling on this gacha, because I blew it on the shooting gacha and got nothing, except a banana, which I didn't want.
I told you she was coming.
Yeah, I know you did. I just sort of hoped for a different Oni. But yeah, it's going to make it much, much easier to rapid fire go through the really nasty Rakshasa difficulty quests, because I'll be able to just brute force my way through a lot of the bosses in those particular farming quests, and optimize my real world time rather than necessarily optimizing for drops, which I don't have as an option really. Yeah, so that event will come to a close in another week and a half-ish, and then we will be on the wind up to Shimosa, I presume. So yeah. All right, what else did I do this week? I finished watching what I presume was the entirety. I finished watching the 12 episodes or 13 episodes, whatever it was, of the saga of Tanya the Evil.
Yeah.
And I don't know what I think of it. I really don't. And because I'm like completely sidetracked by things that other people don't think about. Because the show I can't work out what its angle is, what it's trying to say, or if it in fact cares and is trying to say anything at all. Because it's got this sort of almost Nietzschean bizarre mix of total theological mistakes and total theological bullseyes, and I can't tell which side of the ledger is accidental, or if both of them are deliberate or both of them are accidental. So yeah, it's very strange. I don't really know what angle they're coming at metaphysically, if they even have one. So it's very strange. Like I've mentioned in the past, the main character is like one of those ultra pragmatist, ruthless, avowed atheist types. Like everyone who is a communist. Although he's not a communist, he's like sort of the most evil kind of ANCAP person you'd ever run into. But so he gets isekai'd by a train, which is apparently I'm seeing more and more often.
Now?
Yeah, I'm seeing it more and more often used as a verb, which means it's a word that means you get hit by a vehicle.
Right.
Because the assumption, the cultural assumption now is if you get hit by a vehicle, it means you go to another world. But
instead of just dead.
So in the fraction of a second before he gets hit by the train, he sees the world freeze frame, and through the frozen mouths of everybody around him, including the animals and whatnot, God speaks to him, and basically has a big lament about his chronic lack of faith and how he doesn't understand how he could be so faithless and why everybody's so faithless these days. So you end up with this conflict and this argument, basically, where the main character makes some correct judgments and some incorrect judgments, philosophically speaking. Where so he says that, oh no, well, I'm an atheist. I don't believe in God, so I don't believe in you. Which, okay, that's this core atheist claim. He then goes on to say, well, the show then has God complaining that he doesn't understand, which is, if you use, and the show appears to most of the time, if you use a Judeo-Christian interpretation of God, which they've mashed up with the concept of reincarnation because it's hard to get isekai'd if you don't reincarnate.
Mhm.
If you use the Judeo-Christian form of God, it's a logical paradox to assert that there is anything that God cannot comprehend, because God, understood as God qua ipsum esse subsistens, logically is incapable of misunderstanding. So that part doesn't make sense. But then he goes on to make the correct theological judgment that he can't call this person who is a bad manager of reality of creation God. So he's going to call him being X, which is the correct theological judgment. Because in order for you to misunderstand something, you must belong to a class of creatures, that is to say, contingent beings, rather than be God. So it would not be correct to call somebody capable of misunderstanding something God. So he makes the correct theological judgment there vocally, but then goes on to use that as a justification for not believing in God, despite the fact that he's distinguished the God that he has encountered from the concept of God, which would be coherent. And this sort of bizarre mismatch of judgment and metaphysics continues throughout, and the story basically plays out as basically the main characters raging against the heavens constantly, and God from this point on plays out in such a way that I can't tell if they're trying to take a dig at God or a dig at atheists, because God doesn't intervene in any meaningful fashion from then on. Occasionally, he will complain at the main character for his continuing lack of faith. But all of the direct interventions, as far as like giving the main character's enemies superior magical power or whatever, like those type of miraculous interventions could all be written off as non-miraculous interventions, because they basically involve a slight increase in competence or something. So in a thematic sense, you could brush those off because they're not miraculous. They're just an increase in degree. So basically what happens is that you end up with a story where the main character blames God for everything, despite the fact that God is not responsible for anything, and makes his own life a living hell as a result. So it makes him as an atheist look really bad, because he ends up horribly, horribly unhappy, and the world is filled with war and slaughter, all of which is exclusively humans are responsible for in every situation. Yet he blames God for it throughout, and God hasn't basically done anything to prompt all of this slaughter. And he's claiming that the God that he doesn't believe in has failed to prevent the massive world war slaughter. And it basically becomes increasingly unhinged. He ends up at length demonstrating the oft-made the theological point that hell is something people manufacture internally. Like the more stridently the main character denies the existence of God, the worse his life becomes. And not due to anything about God's intervention, but due to his increasingly twisted outlook on the world, to the point where he's almost completely unhinged by the end of the story arc. But yeah, I can't work out what angle they're playing there, because they've taken a flawed concept of God from say a Christian point of view, and then have proceeded to beat by beat prove all of the Christian points by demonstration in this guy's behavior. So I'm not really sure whether the origin point or the destination point is, but I think that as a show, it's pretty much run its course by the end of the season. I don't think that there's really anything much more meaningfully you could do with that. So it ends with, how would I analogize this? It ends with a successful invasion of France by Germany, and the French army manages to flee mostly intact from France to North Africa, and now Germany has to fight on another front because they didn't pursue a sound strategy of eliminating the opposing army and instead let them get away, because they were overly logical and assumed that, oh, well, because they're defeated, they're going to stop fighting, right? Rather than, well, they're now, scarred by the hatred of seeing their homeland defiled, and now they're going to fight even harder. So they make a tactical error judgment, and then basically the story ends at Tanya and her battalion being sent to a new theatre of war in North Africa to repeat the whole bloodletting shenanigan again. So I don't think that there's actually any more story to carry on from there. But as a unit, it's one of those stories where there's no character development, so it doesn't really feel satisfying at all. Because there is literally zero character development for any character involved. Not a single one of them changes one iota from their first appearance.
So at the end of the day, nobody learns a thing.
Yeah. And I think that that's probably the main intentional theme of the story, is that the more things change, the more they stay the same. Because at the end of the story, nothing has changed except the scenery. That's the only thing. But yeah, I can't really recommend it because it's such a water treading story. Like, it's not the sort of thing that I find exciting. The combat scenes are actually kind of cool, and a show which was aimed at exploring the world building, I would have enjoyed a lot. It's not aimed at that, which makes me think it's aimed at something more thematically grounded, which is why I spent so much time pondering what sort of metaphysical angle they were playing for. But because that is unclear, it means that the messaging is also unclear. So I can't recommend the show because I think it's confused, ultimately. Because as a piece of world building, it's shallow. They don't explain the way the world is put together very well. They show the necessary parts very well, but there's nothing deeper than that to get your teeth into, because it's not, an isekai series that has decided to go into painful depth about the underpinnings of the setting. As a character piece, it doesn't go anywhere because the characters don't ever change in any way. And as a thematic piece, it doesn't have internal consistency with what they are saying versus what they appear to be trying to show versus how the characters react to it. The theming is a little bit incoherent for the most part. So yeah, I think overall it doesn't really know where it's going, where it's from, or what it wants to be. So right. I can't really give it a recommendation.
Is that the one that has the ban on cosplay all over the place?
Yeah. It's banned to cosplay them.
Because reasons?
Because Nazis.
Nazis.
Despite the fact that this is an alternate world, and it's an alternate world where there is no World War I or World War II.
Mm-hmm.
It takes place in the time period between the two, but World War I never happened, so World War II is happening early, is what I would say, and still under Imperial Germany. Probably part of what tweaks people's noses about it is that in the setting, as far as I understand it, originally the cause of conflict was not aggression on the part of Imperial Germany's stand-in. It was just that they became too militarily, industrially, and economically powerful. They aggressively defended their borders. They had a heavy military presence around their borders, and other nations saw that as a threat.
Did they build a wall?
And started arming up. No, nobody built a wall. Building a wall probably would have forestalled a lot of the stuff. But the thrust of it was that everybody wanted to be the guy who attacked first as a form of defense. And the German faction, that it would be wrong to say that they are innocent, but they are also not at fault. And the sort of paranoia and jealousy of the other countries is at least as much at fault as they are. So, yeah, I think in that sense, people probably feel like, oh, well, it overlaps with the time period of Nazi Germany and it doesn't criminalize the German nation as being responsible for everything. Therefore, this show is Nazi apologetics.
Yeah, that sounds like the usual leap of logic to be expected.
Yeah, that's what I think's really at the heart of it.
Yeah.
So, what else? I don't think that there's much else to talk about. We're sort of getting to the tail end of the current season, and the current season has been staggeringly blah.
It has been very really blah.
I'm having one of those seasons where I'm just not really excited for any of the stuff I'm watching. It's just, yeah, I'll watch it, I guess, because I might as well.
There's nothing else to watch.
It's very much there's nothing else on, or like I want to fill some time. But yeah, once I decide what I want to watch instead, I'll probably go back and watch an older series, whether one I've missed or one that I want to rewatch, because as a season, this season has just been very underwhelming.
It's been a while since we've had
Thoroughly.
a really runaway good season.
Well, I mean, I don't really need to worry. I don't feel like I need to worry about that too much because Lord El Malloy, the second Case Files, comes out next season.
Yes.
So I don't really need to care about if there's a smash hit, because to me, that one is guaranteed to be a smash hit. Yeah. And then, the season after that is Absolute Demonic Front Babylonia.
Oh, yes.
So you need to hurry up and clear that singularity.
Certainly do.
Otherwise, it will become as much work as America to go through it at gacha pace while you've already seen the story. So
Gacha
yeah.
pace.
So yeah, I haven't watched as many shows this season as I normally do, due to conventional lack of time reasons and getting eaten alive by FGO and some of the more time-consuming events. I talked last week about Rising of the Shield Hero. It seems to be continuing its arc. I'm not really sure how long, because I don't know the arc structure narratively. I don't know how much longer it's going to go, since we're in the second core at the moment. But we're getting towards the end of the second core, but they have just embarked upon a ship to go to a new place.
That's its own arc in the after.
Yeah.
you get on
So
the
it's
ship.
just
But
moved straight on to the next arc.
My point is that arc longer than 2 episodes, because that's all that's left this core sort of thing.
Oh yeah,
honestly,
you've got another
it's
wave in there.
They could probably crush it down to like 3 or 4 episodes if they wanted, but it depends on how much they want to do with the characters in that arc that show up, and how much of the stuff in the manga they want to show.
Yeah,
they've stuck pretty dang close so far.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I've been slowly trying to catch up with Bungo Stray Dogs, not because the show is especially great, but because I kind of enjoy it. It's just sort of it's basically a superpowers show in essence, and it's got a lot of style to it. So, Wise Man's Grandchild continues to be bad. Don't watch it. I'm only watching it as a form of informal penance at this point. Although, as I've mentioned in the past, it's kind of interesting to see an isekai where the primary protagonist and the primary love interest fall in love at first sight and are completely devoted to each other from the word go and never look at anybody else. So there's a novelty, I guess. People have been giving a modest amount of play to Kimetsu no Yaiba, which I haven't been watching. But it bothers me a little that one of the things that they've been praising it for is having a normal, healthy brother-sister relationship as part of the story.
That should not be worth mentioning. That should be the norm.
Yeah, it tells you a little bit about what the norm has become, though, doesn't it? Unfortunately.
Nope. I don't live in that world.
No.
That
yeah,
world
you're just gonna nope out of this one.
Nope.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
Anime's gone to a really weird and dark place.
The second the West starts advocating for that kind of shit,
too late.
I'm out. Like the second it becomes popular enough to make it in my
outside of California, somewhere outside.
Not counting California. Yeah.
Yeah, there are a bunch of fluff shows this season, like trying to briskly move away from that topic. There are a bunch of sort of fluff shows this season, none of which have really sold themselves and none of which anybody's really talking about. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I haven't been watching those. There's a few here and there that I'll probably go back and poke at a little bit because I'm just so curious as to where all the quality went this season. But, yeah, like Midnight Occult Civil Servants is a weird enough title for a show that I'm going to poke at it probably if I have time.
That's just saying the government's being run by lizard people.
Yeah. If I mean, I don't think the government is run by lizard people. I think that social media is run by lizard people.
Oh, that's certain.
When was the last time you looked at a picture of Mark Zuckerberg? That man does not look natural.
Yesterday, and he looked like a Kill the Kill reject.
No, that was Elon Musk.
Oh, right, that's right. We look at weird crap on the internet.
But yeah, the people are mainly continuing to talk about Shield Hero and are talking about Helpful Fox Senko-san, which sort of bothers me. Since it's, what do they call them? Healing series?
Yeah. It's just a pure big old bucket of cotton candy.
Yeah. It's cotton. It's not even cotton candy, because cotton candy is something small children go nuts over. I think that this is like whatever the cotton candy equivalent is for tired, worn out salarymen. So yeah. But yeah, so that's just overall not been a great season. I don't really know where all the good stuff has gone. Possibly it's because I've embarked on this sort of informal policy of not watching school club anime every season.
That's actually a very good policy. Don't do that.
Which sort of slices in half the number of offerings in total. But, you know, occasionally those shows are good.
Occasionally.
And I'm wondering if I'm missing something. So, yeah, I don't know. But I'm not going to, like, watch the usual things which crop up all the time, like the newest season of Yu-Gi-Oh! And that sort of thing. Why are there so many seasons of Yu-Gi-Oh? Why is it still going?
I don't know. Apparently it's fun to watch people cheat at card games.
Yeah. Well, anyway. So, yeah, I'm hoping that next season will be better, because this season is really has not impressed me in any way. It's like, you know, a couple of harem shows, mountain of school club shows, a bunch of weird shows that look like they're promos for franchises of various kinds, and then, you know, not very much left over besides. So
sounds about right.
Yeah, here's hoping the next season will be good. I'm glad that I've got at least one series that I can take refuge in regardless. So
it's fate.
Yes, it is. Well, I gather that next season's also going to have another season of what's it called? Is it okay to pick up girls in a dungeon?
I don't know why people like that so much.
I don't know why I like it, but I actually kind of like it. Actually, like is probably the wrong term.
I'm not sure there is actually.
It's more like how do I? It's not quite morbid fascination. It's not quite liking it. It's not quite. Maybe it's just like the same spirit in which I play Destiny 2, and that my brain just switches off completely and doesn't have to do any work. It just watches the flashing lights.
Look at the pretty lights. Look at the weird toothbrushing dance. Seriously, that one got out of hand.
Yeah, that there's a bunch more isekais, I think, next season, because, you know, there always are. But one of them is the one that I've mentioned previously about the guy's mother coming along with him and being completely OP.
Oh yes, that one I'll actually probably watch because it sounds stupidly fun. There's just so many. Oh, it's another world with X twist, and it's harem.
Yeah, I have really continued to see the an ongoing trend of a gradually increasing age of the main characters.
That's at least a thing.
Like, they are clearly following their audience. Like, for instance, there's another one coming out where like, it used to be like the Sword Art Online generation. The protagonists were always people who played online games.
Mm-hmm.
Like Log Horizon was the same. Nowadays, it's that you get one like Deathmatch to a Parallel World, and you get there's one coming out next season, which is about a guy who is who works for a company managing an online game. Like, it's the people who make it now, the people who are employed, as opposed to the people who are in high school and have the free time to play them. It's like, how can we have these people playing video games when we know for a fact that nobody with a job can play them that much? Oh, I know, we'll just have them on the development team.
You know, we should write an isekai that's just in another world with my washing machine. Just have some housewife show up and make those societies clean.
I've actually
Because they're
played that
probably
game.
filthy.
There's actually already anime like that. It's not that I'm not saying it's a washing machine one, but it's like a super mundane one. Like, basically the only thing that he really brings to the other world is a sort of like a sketchy knowledge of interesting dishes that are cooked in our world that aren't cooked in the other world.
Yeah.
Okay, so in another world,
like-
it's my
it's
kitchen
like-
knife.
Yeah, basically.
Right.
It's just whenever isekais are brought up, and it's always some guy from our world being sent to another world. I'm just like, you know, if somebody from our world with our modern noses and our modern clean cities, unless you live in San Francisco, if you go back in time to a time or another world that does not have washing machines, you're gonna pass out from the smell.
The human stank. We're not going down that road again, though. Unless
No,
you
we're
want to
talking
make
about
fun of
Stank in the past.
unless you want to make fun of Microsoft's new deodorant line.
Was that real?
That I'm pretty sure that's real. Yeah.
I thought that was just a joke
Nope.
on Reddit.
Nope. Wasn't that?
I mean, it's going.
I support this. I am perfectly okay with this. They clearly understand the hard-hitting issues in the gaming community.
I don't know if you're going to get much mileage out of trying to market gamer shower gel, though.
They've tried to market gamer everything else, and it's worthless crap
Well,
every other
I mean,
time.
we'll soon see, since it's being marketed in New Zealand and Australia. So when the fullness of time comes to pass, we will be able to determine by going to the supermarket whether or not Microsoft is really engaged in this practice.
See exactly how bad it smells.
Anything is better than Gamerfunk.
This is promising to be Gamer Funk flavored deodorant, though.
Oh well, the next Hero Aka season's coming out in the same season as the FGO anime, the Babylonia one,
I saw that was coming up.
and the second part of Grand Blue Fantasy is coming out then as well.
So there is some good stuff coming up on the horizon.
Yeah, like another quarter of a year away from now.
Yeah, just hold out till then. We will get more Hero Aka.
And
And
I
Grand
hope
Blue.
that they don't get to.
Yeah.
As they don't drop the ball with it.
Right, we'll call my week at an end.
Alright, in which
All
case,
right.
we should probably take a break.
We should. We'll be right back after some music. And we're back. And
Yes,
I think
indeedy.
we were near the end of Vol's week when we.
Yeah, I don't have much else to say except that nobody seems to want to take my money.
Yeah.
So, I suppose we'll go on to my week. This was. We'll jump off and get why I did not. I did the same things I did last week, just less of them, except for the audiobook part this week. And that's because it was really busy at work. It was a big week at work this week. I have been talking to the boss about a particular employee that has been working with us, who we brought on to go talk to other companies that might be interested in letting us represent them, to talk to new engineers and see if anybody wants to contract with us. This was supposed to be his job.
And I'm assuming it has not been done.
Well, over a year ago at this point, I think, I found a Facebook post, or yeah, it was a Facebook post of him. Now, the day I found it, he said he was going to a meeting with a distributor to talk to him
Hmm.
or something. Point is, he was supposed to meet with somebody and it was work related, and he was on company time while he was away doing that. The post was from Six Flags because he left his location marker on.
Really?
The dude went to an amusement park with his family on company time and wasn't doing his job.
Ah, dear, oh dear.
I'm surprised your business is still going. I really am.
Yeah. It's hard, man. It has not been easy to keep that thing afloat. There are only a few of us running around patching up holes, and there's so many people drilling more. We can't patch up the holes and bail the ship out at the same time while people are drilling more holes.
Nope.
Especially when it's the captain that's doing it. But I managed to redirect the captain's drill at this particular other guy who had a jackhammer and run it right through him. And he's gone now.
Oh, good.
Like, first actual for reals, he's firing, not you might want to quit so we don't have to say we fired you.
Just GTFO.
Like, yeah, like we can't pay you anymore, dogs, was how the other layoffs happened. So we let them say they quit because they were really old. But this one was in about 55 to 60-ish. He was in his mid 50s. And everybody hated this guy.
We seem to hate everybody just as much, so I guess it's fair in that sense.
Yes.
But to emphasize how much everybody hated this guy, I had to come into work today on a Saturday until about 8 o'clock. Everybody in the office was in a good mood. Just because he
On a
wasn't
Saturday.
there. Yeah. Just because that guy wasn't there.
And he's not going to be there anymore.
I had an amicable conversation with somebody who I normally don't get along with very much. Like, everybody was in a good mood. And so, it was a very good week. Although, like a dum-dum, I decided that, well, if he wasn't going to do his job, if I take his responsibilities, I think that puts me pretty much over the line of peak responsibility I can reasonably take on and still be a functioning human being, and also be completely irreplaceable to the company because I do too much for it now.
Sounds like logic.
So I did that. And that means the next few weeks, I'm not going to jump on doing it right away because it hasn't been done for a year. Another week it can wait. But yeah, that's going to be quite a bit of work added to my plate with that. But this also puts me in a position where if I do take over the company, I will be in the position of the person that sought our suppliers out and talked to them personally if I become the owner.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a lot of good leverage with suppliers and they tend to like that when the owner is the person talking to them. So
this is assuming there's anything of the company left.
But it means that you're actually speaking for the company's opinion and have the authority to put your money where your mouth is.
Yeah, it's just a logistically good thing to have happen. So yeah, I've been mentally preparing myself for that and trying to figure out how I'm going to approach it. And we'll have to see. This could go really bad, or it could work out great. And because the most ridiculous scenario always happens in my life, all the time.
Yes.
Something's going to explode. and this is going to become a train wreck. And I'll somehow pull it out, and then it'll explode even worse.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
That's
how these things usually go.
Is the offices up to fire codes? Do you have enough fire extinguishers?
We have a fire extinguisher.
Is it easily accessible? It's not like behind something incredibly flammable, is it?
Has it been serviced in the last 12 months?
I think it's actually out of line of sight behind a desk.
The desk will catch fire.
Yeah, that desk is doomed.
I have no idea what the stupid fire extinguisher is. I know we have one, It was mounted on a wall at one point, but we reorganized the office, and I don't think I've seen it since then.
Somewhere a health and safety officer is screaming.
Yeah, they can get over it. So yeah, my master plan continues, and trying to pull this crashing plane out of a nosedive, and I'm getting there. With firing this guy, he was taking a huge chunk of change a month to basically do no work. And with him gone, that puts me, according to my calculations, push my non-existent glasses up my nose as I say that. We should be okay for the monies and back in good with in terms of finances with the company if we just keep budgeting for another quarter. And I can get us out of this death spiral we're in.
Sounds like progress.
This has been a lot of hard work. A lot of hard work. Don't do what I do ever to anybody listening to the show. I'm an idiot. Never ever decide that you're gonna go and take as much responsibility as you can and just do stuff because you don't trust anybody else to do it. You'll kill yourself. But yeah, don't do as I say, not as I do. So yeah, this has been I know it's a horrible idea, but I'm doing it anyway. And I will be beating myself over the head for it later. So I did much the same of what I did last week when I did have free time. And at home, I came home from work. I was exhausted. I sat down. I booted Neo back up and listened to Codex Alera again and finished this Codex Alera series and platting Neo.
Not a bad effort, at least.
Yep. So, where are those notes? All right, so let's do Neo first. And I do want to get to Codex Alera, so don't let me spend too terribly long on Neo, because there ain't too terribly much to talk about. In addition to what I said last week. But, so, Neo. I have officially gotten into New Game Plus. You have to beat New Game Plus, all the missions on New Game Plus to get the platy. You have to beat the game twice. And that's fine and lovely and all. Except for one problem. And this was bugging me because I could have had this game plattied days ago. There are 2 daily missions every single day in a corner of the screen that are pulled from a pool of about 14 of these stupid things. You have to complete all of them to have it count as you doing all the missions in the game on both on New Game and New Game Plus.
I'm going to go out and say that they're completely random.
Yeah. There's a pool of 14-ish of these dumb things, and they rotate every day. That is rather weird.
Mm-hmm.
No, Vol just said my lips were smacking around a lot. It might be the position of my microphone. I will scoop it back. It is probably picking up
everything.
My lip sound. That, and it's been pouring down rain, so my lips are probably weird with the moisture around.
Moist.
I didn't even realize I said it until you said it, Fern. Why'd you do this?
Because it deserves to be pointed out and punished at every opportunity.
Could have let it slide.
Nope.
You didn't have to do this.
Nope.
But yeah. So that was the first roadblock. And that was annoying, but not that bad. The next roadblock was the entirety of how the gear system works, because you have to figure it out if you're going to beat New Game Plus all the way through. Otherwise, you're going to get stuck at about a quarter of the way through, because enemy health and damage and ramps up not linearly, but not quite exponentially. It goes up at a spiky rate. And when you hit a spike, if your gear isn't good enough for it, You're just going to die in one hit, and you're going to hit like a wet noodle, and you're not going to kill the thing. So this means you not only have to have some kind of build in mind and understand this stupidly complex system that it has, but you also have to farm the gear for it. Now, I was chimping out about this a little bit last night to Vol because it was really, really dumb.
I didn't understand most of what you said. It was really confusing.
That's the point. I'm still not sure. Yeah. It does not make any dang sense. There is a stat in this game for literally everything. And it just so happens that the weapon I chose as the one I've gravitated towards and upgraded the most is the weapon that could not effectively use the God Mode Infinite Health Instagib build that was the only build anybody ever made before the 1.21 patch when they killed it. And that's when everybody quit the game. And so there are no guides on what the heck you need to do.
That is awfully inconvenient, yes.
So this turned into a yakety sax game of running all over the internet to try and compile something that resembled a list of the actual effects and what they really do, because a bunch of them are just not translated very well. And some of them just outright don't make any dang sense. Like, I have the game pulled up to prove this. Like, key recovery twirl. What the heck does that even mean?
What?
It's got a 24 next to it.
Say that again?
Key recovery twirl. Key is your stamina.
Key recovery twirl.
Just twirl.
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 What?
Do you spin in place while meditating? I don't know.
Well, like, do you like spin your sword and get bonus key returned or something?
For all I know,
Spin
it's
style?
a skill. It's a skill you might get to drop from somebody, maybe, and you get that much key back when you use it, or it could be you run in a circle and you get that much key back. I have no idea. It doesn't explain it. There's stuff like that all over the game. That was just what was on my screen that particular moment. That was stupid on that particular piece of gear, and it's all over the place. Like, what's the difference between strong attack break and strong attack key damage? Because when you hit somebody that's blocking, I thought the break stat made you do more damage to their key while they were blocking. That's apparently what it does. But strong attack key damage, enemy guarding, appears by its name to do the exact same thing. And then you have the stats that are just, they don't have percentages or numbers, they have letter grades for their scaling. And nowhere in the game does it list what the heck that scaling is.
Is it at least consistent, or is it some things with letters and some things with numbers?
No, it's just, of course it's not consistent. Like, I have one skill. Yeah, I have one skill here on my main Tonfas. Increased damage, consecutive attacks, C+. Okay.
Okay.
I assume that means the more I hit, I do more damage, but what the heck does the C+ mean? That's not a number I can work with. I go to my Odachi, my backup weapon, and it's got, like, enemy defeated bonus, A-. I have no clue what that does exactly.
It's a bonus for defeating enemies, obviously.
Yeah, but what does the A- mean? Does it have a cap? Who knows? A change to attack, parentheses stamina, double A-. Like, what does this
double
stuff
A?
even mean? Yes. And there's also pluses to these.
Okay. Okay, so apparently a twirl is like a parry knockdown from the mid stance that you can use with a spear.
Okay, so yeah, it's some buried skill in the skill tree or in the thing.
And it doesn't
presumably it adds a key recovery element to a parry knockdown from the mid stance with the spear.
Which is lovely because that was on a sword.
I actually checked the sword list of skills, and there is no twirl skill for the sword.
Yeah,
right.
I didn't know the spear had a parry. a good chunk of weapons have a parry, but I didn't think the spear did. And they're usually just called parry.
Well, I mean, do you know that it does? Like, it may just have a skill which refers to what happens when you parry with a weapon that can't parry.
Who knows? But yeah, like nullify weakening weapons in parentheses 50%, but it says nullify right there. And this is a problem, and this is the badly translated or badly worded stuff in general. Like, I could go on. Like, no guard break, aiming ranged. Yeah, don't have much clue what that means.
There are
But-
skills called first rule of thrusting, second rule of thrusting, and third rule of thrusting.
Thrusting?
Yeah. And the skill tree is incredibly disorganized in the UI. Neo 2 does a much better job with a traditional sphere grid from, like, so you can see everything and where it's going.
Is that just because it was
And-
translated by somebody from this planet?
I have no idea. But this is a UI problem with the game. So if it's related to a skill, I have no idea. But then you have the passives and skills on weapons and armor that just don't make any diddly dang sense and are completely useless.
There's a specific skill to prevent your weapon from bouncing off of walls.
Yeah, that's the your legendary spear skill that you spend 7 dang points on is to make it not bounce off walls.
Why would you be... No, never mind. I don't think I want to know the answer to that.
Yeah. It actually has a use because you can use your spear against other spear users in cramped corners and totally give them, insta-give them, because they can't do anything.
This was Yokotaro, wasn't it?
I don't think so, no.
Oh, okay.
But, no. The other problem is skills that just don't do anything. Like,
What do you mean
like,
they don't do it?
like they're completely useless. Like, when key broken, you go into a huff puff animation if you completely exhaust your if you completely exhaust your key and you take damage or you try to block with no key. Discount dollar store Geralt has to hunch over and grab his knees for a few seconds while he huffs and puffs. So you don't want that to happen. There's a skill, when key broken, auto recover key for 1 second. That's lovely, video game. But the problem is, by the time he's finished with that animation, the key bar's already filled all the way back up without you.
Right.
I see.
Even in heavy armor. Like, reduce damage taken from behind. Who is ever going to actively seek that out? Increase run speed when surrounded. There seems to be a contradiction with that one. Like, I don't see how I'm going to use it if I'm boxed in.
Yeah.
Barehanded attack damage. When if you punch anything barehanded, you literally do single-digit damage in enemies that have 7-digit health in New Game Plus, and you cannot key pulse, so you cannot recover your key.
It took me a moment, considering how badly translated and worded this game, that you're actually talking about unarmed damage there, not actual bare hands.
Yeah, like your fisticuffs, not bear claws.
Not bear claws.
Yeah.
I want bear claws.
And then there's attack up when out of key. You know, the thing you need to do an attack in the first place.
If you've got your attack up, he's huffing and puffing. What?
Yeah. So what they did with these skills is there is a pool of trigger and effect for a bunch of skills, and the problem is they did not make some of them mutually exclusive from each other.
Aha.
So you get combinations that just don't do anything.
There's a 7-point skill here that makes you do more damage if you huff and puff afterwards.
The axe skill.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually have that one as my axe skill.
Does the axe have really terrible key management?
Oh yeah, it'll eat your whole key bar in one heavy attack if you do the biggest attack you got.
Okay, well that one kind of makes sense then.
Yeah, you can. I take it so if I do have to pull out the axe, I can just go all in and just blow somebody up. It doesn't work on anything that's bigger than like a low-sized mid-tier mook, but it'll chunk somebody. And then the last set of skills I hate now that I'm in post game is in Neo, at the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, you'll forget it's there because you never use it and it never does anything. And you have a radar, but it doesn't work. It's blank all the time normally.
Okay.
Well, that's because you have to get gear that has blank sense on it. So enemy sense, Kodama sense, treasure sense, Amrita experience sense. So you can see nodes on the map near you. That's what the radar's for.
But wouldn't it make sense to make the radar invisible if you had none of those skills?
Oh, you're just talking sense now, Fern. Clearly. You're on a different planet than these devs. But, yeah. So, it's just dumb. Now, so why is all this a problem in the first place, right? So funny skills pop up on gear, farm better gear. That's not the problem. The problem is, to get through New Game Plus, you have to have optimized gear. Like, you have to go get the okay, this will take a little bit of explanation. I'll do it as fast as I can. You have got to take your equipment into the blacksmith, and you can select any passive it has on it, or any skill, or anything at all. And you can reforge it, and it will roll a different skill entirely from a pool of skills, as long as the new skill does not conflict with one of the other ones, because you can't have like 2 damage stats or 2 of the same skills on a piece of gear. So some of them are mutually exclusive in that sense. Just to prevent you from like stacking raw attack damage on literally everything and one-shotting bosses. So, but you've got to like it took me forever to roll the gloves that have weight reduction, close combat attack increase, which is all damage up, damage reduction, base attack on it, and you can't die from dots. Really good. This took 2 hours to farm everything to keep rolling that reforge button to get. And I wasted so many materials rolling over dumb crap that was just like speed up when surrounded. Like increase speed while electrified, which slows you down. So the electricity overwrites it. And it was incredibly frustrating. Just artificially adding to that pool of stuff that makes this process way longer than it needs to be.
This just sounds pointlessly annoying.
Yeah. And from there, you just, once you hit in-game, the gear stops leveling up at level 150. And from there, it gets a little plus number beside it, which effectively adds 15 levels to the item level. It'll jump a good 15 levels. And it won't, but the actual level won't change. So it'll be 150 plus 1, 150 plus 2. So when you get a plus 1 of whatever piece of equipment you want, you start working on it in the forge. And you can inherit by sacrificing an older piece of gear that you reach from maximum familiarity with, so you used it a lot. You can sacrifice it to move one stat that'll be pre-marked with a little arrow to replace a stat on the piece of gear you want. Now, this ain't viable for a whole lot of stuff, but there are some situations where, like, to get attack up, you have to do this with gloves over and over again, which was a roadblock. So I had to keep using different pairs of gloves until the game said I maxed out my friendship with my gloves and could take it to the forge to have it go to have my gloves go marry my boots so that my boots could get an attack up.
I can't tell if this is awesome or terrible.
Yeah, you kind of just stopped making any sort of sense about halfway through that.
Yeah, it's stupid. Basically, you have to use a piece of gear a lot to get a little gauge to fill up, and then you can move one pre-designated stat to another piece of gear by sacrificing the equipment that you used forever. So
that just sounds like an excessive amount of grind.
It is. So yeah, I had to do this with 4 different pairs of gloves to get it on my headpiece, my chest, my legs, and my feet. It was a pain in the butt. But yeah,
sounds it.
And in addition to that, to get the plus number up, you have to get another plus piece of 150 gear to drop of the same number as one of your pieces and feed it to your main piece of gear to have its plus number go up by 1. So you have to go more grind. Yeah. So this is a huge pain in the butt. Basically. if any of this sounds like fun to you, you're wrong.
I think like I watched you play Trials at length, so it's fun in a certain way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you want to watch somebody else suffer,
stay away from the New Game Plus stuff in Neo. It's really not worth it. I kept going because I was real close to the Platy and I'm obsessed with completing stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Stay away from it. It's really, really not worth all this. Unless you want to sit there mashing triangle at the forge for an hour, spending all the materials you spent the last 2 hours before then to farm to get the right stats you want, and then accidentally overwrite one that you would have been okay with and just rolled with anyway. Because you were in a mindless button mashy, give me the next stat, muscle memory.
Yes.
So, yeah. I have not been too impressed with New Game Plus in Neo. DLC is fine. At least. I will say this for Neo. The DLC they put out for this video game was very, very meaty. The second one was the weakest by far. And mostly that's because some of the levels were just bad. Like, it's the Siege of Osaka Castle. And they just decide to plonk you outside the castle in the middle of a battlefield, and the castle's raining arrows on top of you.
Because
so you have to...
loves that.
Yeah, and you have to sit and wait and hide behind cover. And on New Game Plus, they get cannons that can blow the cover up.
Fun.
Just really not a good design level.
And Orlando Archers.
Not quite that bad, but it's a fairly weak expect. But the other two are really well put together and come with good 10 hours of content each. Like, it took me about 30 hours since I didn't know any of the maps the first time through. And they are scaled for you have beaten the main campaign. So if you go through on New Game and you go through the game normally, you will be ready to move in to the DLCs immediately after you beat the epilogue boss of the main story. And they will take you from not that level, from gear level 145 all the way to. Takes a minute for the map to load. Gear level 270. So that's quite a chunk of gear increase from start to finish. But you're ready to go. If you can beat the last boss of the epilogue, you can start off right in the DLC. And if you like Neo, and it is plenty of content. There's, I think, about 15 missions per DLC, with each one being at least 30 minutes long, to some of them as long as 2 hours. So yeah, it was pretty good. And each one comes with at least 3 boss fights. So that was good. I'll give Neo some points there. And I just wish so much of this game wasn't, after you beat it, stuff has more health and does more damage. Because if you decide to go for the Platy, that's all you're going to remember about this game, is how bad the grind was. But if you don't do that, aside from like a couple of levels that are just so bad that game design teachers literally teach them in their classes when they say, this is what you don't do for level design. And those are the standout exceptions. It's an okay game. So now when we get more Neo 2 stuff, I should be able to talk about it more comfortably now that I've refamiliarized myself with everything and really actually figured out what the heck this system does, for the most part, aside from the stuff that I don't have a clue what it does.
Sounds like most of it.
Yeah. So yeah. I've been going on that for way too long. I didn't want to stay on Neo for very long. But Fern, this one you can talk about, though.
Oh dear.
And you can help me with it. As much as you can.
As much as I can, because I don't remember half of it.
So, I finished the Codex Alera series while I was doing this stupid grind.
Yep, the book series that Jim Butcher wrote on a day.
Yeah. So, I am leaning towards negative on the books.
Okay.
When I finished it, I had the most neutral response I could to finishing a book series, and that is the worst response you can have from your reader.
Like, meh.
Just meh.
Yeah, like okay, that's done now. Next series. That is the absolute worst response for me. I would rather be angry at something than have that response. So I'm knocking it down off the flat middle ground of a story on the lower end, just because if you hit that, you immediately lose. It rounds down. And the big problem I had with this with the series was a few of the characters play samey tropes we've seen over and over again, come way too straight, and don't deviate at all. And the villains are some of the weakest I think Jim Butcher has ever written.
Oh yeah.
Special shout outs go out to Senator Arnos and the Yurk-Zerg hybrid alien queen.
Yeah.
So, and I wanted to call out Senator Arnos specifically, who is the main villain of the third book.
Yeah, at least the Zerg-ish queen has the excuse of being part of a hive mind.
Yeah. But even then, she's paired with some of the worst characters in the series. So I'll talk about them in a minute. But I want to call out Senator Arnos because he almost ruins the entire third book by himself.
Yep.
He is a one standard metric unit obstructive douchebag bureaucrat.
Grand Vizier classic.
So not nearly as cool as Senator Armstrong.
Nowhere near as cool.
He gets shipped off to Taviar Protag's camp, where he is currently captain, or pretending to be a captain of the Legion undercover when he's really a spy at that point. He is later adopted as Captain Proper, as the name of the next book, Captain's Fury, would imply.
Yes.
He does a good job in this book. And this whole book is this guy deliberately trying to just make Tavi's life a nightmare. And it is just him being an obstructive bureaucrat. And not in a fun way, because we don't get anything from his perspective. We don't get to see how he thinks. And the book treats him like an idiot. All the other characters think he's stupid, because he is stupid.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't do anything with him to make him a cool villain. And he's the main villain for the whole book. Over 3/4 of the cast has him as their central focus for the whole book. And he is just really, really awful. All he does is go... It's the same as, I don't believe there's a crisis at the border.
But there's a crisis at the border.
But there's a crisis at the border. We need to build a wall. This is actually things that happen in the book, by the way.
Yeah.
I am not. This is actually not a Trump reference, believe it or not. He's like, oh, these fantasy wolfmen people that are 15 feet tall and can crush us like twigs between their fingers that you claim to have a begrudging respect for, and that seem to have some kind of amicable relationship towards.
Fantasy nothing. There's one right over there.
Yeah. What we had their ambassadors here. He's in your prison, dude. You didn't think they'd come to get him out? What's wrong with you people?
If they don't exist, they can't rescue him, right?
The one walking around in the camp is a figment of everyone's imagination.
Yeah, like, it's just really dumb. And he does this the whole book.
Well, anything that's not signed in triplicate is a figment of the imagination to a bureaucrat.
This is true.
Yeah. He's more politician than bureaucrat, I guess, but it's still really, really bad. And I just... every scene he's in, if they'd have shown us what he was thinking or something, the book would have been okay, but he wasn't there. The Vord Queen is the other villain I hate. Because she is just a petulant alien who doesn't understand humans. Basically. Yeah, and the Vord are, like I said last week, they are if the Yurks and the Zerg DNA digivolved. You get the Vorg. Or the Vord. They operate the exact same way with limitations of those two. If the Zerg had a little parasite that can infect people, basically. And they are the primary threat in the last book and a half. And they're built up pretty good throughout the whole series. And our payoff is the Vord Queen, who is just an angry, petulant little child who doesn't know what to do when she doesn't get her way.
Wasn't she mimicking one of the spoiled nobles? I forget.
She learned, one of the other bad villains, Lady Aquitaine, who is just a corrupt, power-hungry
Pain in the
sleazeball.
ass.
Yeah.
Yes.
She's incredibly strong and got her position from her raw strength at Fury crafting,
Bending.
the magic of the universe. Yeah, Avatar bending.
Yeah.
She's really strong in bending, so she got her position that way. But she's just a sociopath and a stock standard power hungry sociopath. Nothing interesting about her at all. Even the characters know she's not interesting.
Yeah.
The characters explicitly say, "Okay, she's going to betray us."
Oh yeah.
Every single time she's a villain after the first book, nobody expects her to act in good faith. Ever. It's lampshaded every single time there's a scene with her. And this is a problem with the series, because these are our three main bad guys throughout the series. And they're all terrible, relatively speaking. Like, none of these are Nicodemus tier from Dresden, for instance, which is the peak of what I think Dresden can write for, or Butcher can write for a villain.
Yeah.
That Nicodemus has been his best villain by far. None of these are even in the ballpark. They're all really, really bad. This problem is compounded further by two of our POV characters and the most powerful character in the series until the fourth or fifth book. And that's our protag Tavi and his aunt Isana. Tavi is the straight played trope of the prince hidden among the paupers for his own safety.
Mm-hmm.
Who learns about his heritage and grows up to become the good king. We have seen this done in so many stories for the last over 1,000 years.
It's a very common trope.
And it does nothing interesting with it. And that's the problem with Tavi. He just plays the trope so straight.
Mm-hmm.
His only redeeming quality is how absolutely ridiculous his plans are, and how he goes for broke and goes over the top with everything.
Yeah, it just sounds like you're describing, an isekai protag.
A little bit, I guess, yeah.
Yeah. So Tavi's shtick was, for most of the series, he has no fury crafting. He's the only Illyrian, the only human in the series that cannot fury craft at all. So he can't even turn on the light switches at people's houses.
Yeah.
Because they use fury craft. And yeah, so he has to use his brain. And this is an interesting concept until in the fourth book they get rid of it. And he gets fury powers that are stronger than everybody else's by the end of the sixth book.
Because reasons.
Yeah, I'm just beating my head as soon as that happened. I was so angry.
Why would you do that? What's the point?
It would have been better if he'd stayed as the mundane throughout the entire series.
Yeah.
He legit became an isekai protagonist.
Yeah. We had a cool setup.
Is there a prologue where he gets hit by a truck?
Sadly, no.
It is an alternate Earth. It is another world. It deviates from ours at about halfway through Rome's timeline in our world.
What was it? The 12th Legion.
Yeah. So yeah. The other, we gotta hurry along. But the other problem character is Isana, his aunt, who is she's the one of the strongest water crafters on the planet, and water is emotions, and she can read people's feelings, and she is a POV character, and oh my goodness, Butcher gets so repetitive with her scenes and drags them out, and that's the problem with Isana.
Yeah, I'll definitely agree with that one.
Anytime Isana is on screen, okay, great. We get a little bit of insight into the villains because she can read their emotions. Cool, whatever. That's fine. But he does not know when to put the pin down, describing what the emotions feel like, and they go on for paragraphs sometimes.
Yes.
Like, Isana is just the worst POV character because she's written so badly.
She tends to stand around and mince on for hours on end.
Yeah. And, I'll skip the third protagonist that I do not like. Because the original First Lord, King or Emperor of the Realm, is just a pancake of a character that flip-flops all the time, and you can never get a clear read on him. But they play it off like he it's totally because he's just that cool, when it's just because the book ain't written very good when it comes to describing him and his motivations.
Yeah.
So, yeah, those are the characters I have a problem with. There are a few things that are good in the books, though. So it's not all bad. And the characters that are good, there are two. There are one singular character and one set of characters, and these three are all tied together in a loose subplot in pretty much every book. And then there's a few other minor characters I'll mention after them. We can move on. The second best set of characters is Bernard and Amara.
Yeah,
These are a straight love at first sight, together forever couple that after they get over their hangups with their duties, they are husband and wife because the barbarian priest married them when they thought they were going to die, and they're just kind of rolled with it. Yeah, or the barbarian battle master married them, actually.
Yeah.
Who is? I'll talk about him in a minute.
One of the coolest wedding scenes you could hope to see.
Yeah. But yeah. And they just work really well together because we have a dual POV, so we get to see a lot more of what's going on. We get to see more of what's inside what the enemies are thinking, what their allies are thinking, because and this is a third-person series, by the way. I want to emphasize when I say POV, I mean where the narrative is focused and whose thoughts and actions it's describing, but it is not written in first person, which is why these POV shifts can be very bad, as I mentioned earlier with Asana. And Bernard and Amara are just fun. They're a husband and wife couple that genuinely like each other and are together forever and are trying to work around some issues with them both having duties to the crown and basically just not caring. And they're just going to stay monogamous and stay faithful to each other, which is wonderful. And they're a lot of fun together. And they have some good and fun banter. Just good, solid, pretty generic, but solid characters.
Yeah.
That you can easily listen to or read and keep going throughout their whole scene. The best character in the series is the Vegeta equivalent, I guess, is the best word for him.
Okay, go on.
So Fidelius Ex Cursori is originally a villain in the first book and leads the attack and the conflict in the first book because he's given up on the realm because there is no heir to the throne, and he does not want the realm to fall into chaos, so he's picked the best first lord that he can find, or the best high lord he can find to take over the role of first lord. And then he figures out that there's an actual heir, and he's like, oh, why didn't somebody tell me? And suddenly he's a good guy now, but he has to work undercover because he tried to kill that same prince.
Yeah.
So
a few times.
He gets an alias that they actually, I don't think they tell you it's him right away. But
not initially, no.
Yeah, so you have to kind of put it together yourself, and I thought it was really well done. And it's his arc is just genuinely interesting. I don't want to spoil anything about it for people that do actually want to go pick up the book series, either because they like the idea of the setting or they like Butcher's other stuff. But yeah, his story is actually pretty good and worth following. If the whole series was just about him, I would be okay. If it was just the Fidelius series and not the Tavi series. If we shifted our focus here.
You remember the bug planet Vegeta?
They go to the bug planet and they sort of.
Well, the bug planet comes to them.
Yeah.
But yeah. Quick mention goes to Max, the best buddy character. Maximilian, actually I think he's a bastard, so he doesn't have a last name. But yeah, Max is the comic relief best buddy character, and every scene he's in is gold. He reminds me of Thomas. He's channeling Thomas a bit in some scenes from Dresden.
Yeah, a bit.
But
he's a bit,
is he as fabulous as all that, though?
He's not fabulous. As no, he's not an XP of Thomas, but he does channel some of the Thomasisms sometimes. But he's a fun character. His mount that he gets in the fourth book when they're off on another continent is the best character in the series. It's when they're not on the home continent anymore, they don't have access to horses, so they have to find these bulls that the wolf people use as mounts. And these things, the book describes describes Tavi's as being one of the nicer and more amicable ones, and it only tries to kill him twice between meals. And so Max decides to name his mount, and it's the only named one, Steak in New Boots. And I thought this was the funniest thing ever. I could not stop laughing at it. And Steak in New Boots and Max have funny background events for the entirety of the fourth book.
Yeah.
And it's wonderful. Last two mentions are Varg and the Wolf people, the Kaine, who are proud warrior race people, who, when their bluntness is dropped into human society, just make for good comedy. In general. And then the Droga is really fun, the chieftain of the Marat, the barbarian tribe.
They're
who
orcs.
yeah,
basically
he is
orcs.
they're not orcs, they're humans, but they behave in a typical fantasy orcish manner, yes.
Yeah.
They're humanesque with special features. But yeah, they have their own dealie, but it's only really relevant for like one of them and only majorly a point in the first book. But yeah, he's just blunt about everything and has a very dry sense of humor about everything. And he follows around Bernard and Amara a lot. And there's one point when he has to administrate a duel to the death, and it's just like, I'm here to officiate this thing. I start by explaining the rules to you, is what I'm supposed to do anyway, except you all know them better than I do. The challenger gets to decide the place and time. They have chosen here and now, obviously, or we wouldn't all be standing out here in the cold. And goes on like this, and this is how his humor works in every scene.
Is it humor, or is he playing it straight, like from his point of view?
From his POV, he's totally playing it straight.
Yeah.
He's just
Most
telling
of the
everybody
time.
they're acting that their traditions are ridiculous because he doesn't understand them, and it's just really funny.
Yeah. There are a few points where he just really plays it up just to annoy someone. Usually Tavi.
Yeah. Like
No wonder you like him so much, because he's bullying the main character.
yeah. He does bully Tavi a lot because Tavi gets accidentally engagified to his daughter in the very first book, like halfway through it. So
Yeah.
he's
he's the father-in-law.
yeah.
Yeah.
He's the crazy alien humanoid father-in-law barbarian who's just like, my son-in-law's culture is stupid. Throughout all the books, and it's wonderful. So those are the good characters. There is some stuff worth going through the book series for, but overall, I'd say to avoid it, I'd especially say avoid the audiobooks, Audible releases. The Audible releases for this series have been broken apparently for the last 7 years.
I see.
Specifically books 5 and 6.
Broken how?
I wrote it all down earlier. Okay, so it's like if they took the original CD release and just ripped the audio from a CD they had laying around of it, but the 5th book CD was scratched. Because at least once per chapter in the book itself, it'll jump ahead by about a paragraph, just suddenly, and this happens to everybody who gets the Audible release. They're all and about the same frequency in different places. For about half a minute, the audio quality will tank and become poppy and cut in and out. It's just really, really poorly put together.
Okay. Thankfully, I didn't run into that when I downloaded it.
Yeah, and this happens consistently throughout. Also, it's broken in its chapter loadout. It cannot display the chapters because of whatever error happened when they encoded this thing, and instead displays every 5 minutes as its own chapter for a book of 200 and something chapters. So bookmarking is next to impossible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was there when I went through it.
Mm-hmm. So the 5th book is especially broken. The 6th book has the same issues, but at about 1/4 as much as the 5th book. So if you feel like reading the series, I would just pick up the book, honestly. They're so bad in some places in those two books for the audiobook, and just read it instead. But yeah, other than that, it feels like Jim Butcher's writing, and if you like that, and nothing I've said really is a major turnoff for you, you feel free to try it out, but I'm not going to give it my recommendation.
All right.
I think that I would just read the Dresden Files again. I've only read the books once each.
Yeah. So yeah, unfortunately, I was quite a bit disappointed actually. But yeah, I went a bit long on that because we talk about Dresden a bit, and it's from the same author, and we went long on it. So we need to transition into the news.
Yes, indeed. Now, there's a whole bunch of stuff that's already starting to dribble out from E3, namely EA's stuff. But we're not going to talk about that.
Well, it's not confirmable, and we'll have to talk about it twice if we talk about it.
Exactly. So. And honestly, it's EA. No one really cares.
Yeah, we'll circle the wagons and come back around to it. Don't worry. We will get to it.
We'll do it all in one hit. So, we do have a few other articles, though. Vol, I think you had a good one picked out to start with, didn't you?
It's news to me.
Okay.
I don't know which one you're referring to.
Yes, you didn't.
Did you want to do the Destiny then first, Vol, since that's the one you brought up to me?
Oh yeah. Well, that was something that I saw in passing. I wasn't necessarily going to talk about it, but I'll look at the conversation we had since I don't actually have notes on it.
I posted a link to the Tech Raptor article on it in the show host board, but
I haven't read it, so that's not really helped while we're doing the show. So basically, Bungie have come out. Well, as a recap, Bungie and Activision had a messy breakup over Destiny 2. Activision wanted to consolidate, and Bungie wanted out. So they basically negotiated a split where Bungie would regain the rights over Destiny 2 and be able to self-publish on their own, and they would go their separate ways from Activision. So that's been sort of... They finished Forsaken. Forsaken, according to Activision Blizzard, failed. But what we know about Activision Blizzard now is that when they make record profits, they sack half their workforce. So, yeah. That doesn't necessarily mean anything. So, I think that basically from reading between the lines in the stuff I've heard come out about Bungie in the past, it sounded like that was the final straw. They were basically they said what about Forsaken? They straitjacketed us into making that thing. We did the best job we could, and now it's not good enough. So they split up. Now, since then, they've been sort of on the down low because they're basically making plans about how they're going to handle the whole debacle. And so they've apparently announced their plans for what they're going to do with Destiny 2 going forward. And I haven't watched their announcement, but I've seen a little bit of commentary floating around on it. So what's really interesting about this is not really in particular what they're doing, because I didn't put a cent into Destiny 2. Like, I don't have any investment in it other than a little bit of time that I spent playing it when it was free on PlayStation Plus.
Yep.
So I don't have any prior investment, but what's interesting about this is that the things that they are doing now sort of allow us to infer the things that Activision had forbidden them from doing. So, and apparently in this announcement, they just constantly rag on Activision throughout.
You know, that sounds like it's worth watching just
directly
for that.
Or indirectly. They pretty much, it's clear that there is a lot of bitterness in the air toward Activision. But it seems like pretty much Activision really did have them in a straitjacket as what they were supposed to be doing, like in every respect. Right down to what they were calling it. Apparently, their sort of paranoid avoidance of the term MMO was something entirely concocted by Activision. And internally, Bungie had been thinking of it, we're making a first-person shooter MMO, right up until Activision put their foot down and said, no, it's not an MMO. It's not an MMO. It's a massively multiplayer online action game or something. That's not an MMO.
Basically, Activision was the only ones who did not call it an MMO.
Yeah, so, but the thing is, it's not just they didn't call it an MMO. In order to not be an MMO, they tried to force Bungie away from doing MMO-esque development and develop it as sort of like they would basically direct it away from doing MMO-esque things, which is why you end up with a lot of very banal tasks, because they weren't allowed to develop it as an MMO. They had to develop it as a shooter, because developing it as an MMO would be bad.
the random events around the world that are quests that pop up repeatedly throughout time give off that feel of these started out as something that would fit in an MMO and got pulled back and twisted into this weird hybrid experience that Destiny is. This weird small group solo hybrid thing.
So they said that now they don't have Activision breathing down their necks. It's going to be a case of, well, I mean, it looks like a duck and it sounds like a duck, walks like a duck. We'll call it a duck. It's an MMO, right? We're going to develop it as an MMO because it's an MMO. And it seems like they're pretty much abolishing the entire business model that Activision had set up, where you've got, all of these season passes and you've got to buy every single piece of content up to date every time you jump into the game. They're getting rid of all of that crap. They're going to retain the seasonal model that they had before, but seasons will be totally opt-in. So if you see a season that you like, you can buy that season and, catch up and play that content. You don't need to grind your way through everything that has ever been released first. I'm not quite sure what the execution will be, but that's what they're planning on. They've thrown out all of the previous roadmap that were supposed to be doing under Activision and are basically starting over. So what they are planning to release, based on my understanding, is when they get their new version of Destiny 2 ready for prime time, they're basically going to put in a new player experience, which will be like a introductory storyline, and it will jump them to current gear for their relaunch for new players.
Okay.
And all of that base content, not counting the stuff that is still under EA's auspices, like all of their expansions like Forsaken and all those other ones that they released up there, those will still all be paid content because they are administered by Activision in terms of the rights, I think. But all of the base game that we got for free on PS Plus will now be free for everybody, and it'll be distributed on Steam as a free-to-play game, their base portion, and then people will get jumped to their new re-release called, I think it's called New Light or something like that, which will have you ready to basically start the game at that level, as if, all of the dark past that came before that no longer exists. You don't need to worry about that. It still exists as a legacy thing, but it's completely irrelevant to new people jumping in.
It's a less harsh way to treat current players of the game, when effectively what they're doing is setting up a Destiny 3 by burying the Activision era of Destiny under the dirt.
All of the people who were playing right up till the new stuff comes out, I mean, they'll get to keep all their sweet gear. They're not going to lose any of that. This isn't like a reboot.
Yeah, they'll get to keep all their emotes and their cosmetics and stuff, so it doesn't hack off the people that did pay, or it shouldn't. It will, but it won't hurt nearly as bad as if they just relaunched the game, which is probably what they wanted to do.
All of that extant stuff still exists, but there's a fresh start for everybody. So it's sort of like the way Blizzard was doing expansion launches, and that you grade everything down to the same level so that everybody can start over. And in this case, it's a big culling because they need to get rid of the stench of Activision's control, pretty much. So yeah, it looks like a good way forward. They are trying to work out the whole cross-platform thing, but you know what consoles are like. Yeah. It's probably going to be, it'll be a rough road to hoe. But they've already, I think, figured out full cross-compatibility with the Blizzard launcher so that people can shift over to the Steam platform, and they're going to distribute everything primarily through Steam. Like, that's going to be their main avenue for distributing new content and marketing new content is going to be via the Steam store. And nice. Ari said that they had a rather smug way of announcing that.
I couldn't find the timestamp for it because nobody was making timestamps for the live stream, but it's like an hour and a half long. But in the comments, they were all talking about how the guy was like, we need an epic partner to help us distribute Destiny to the masses. Destiny will be on Steam.
I mean, they've been hooked up to one evil money machine. I think that they'll know another evil money machine when they see it.
They want nothing to do with that.
Yeah, like they've just gotten their rights back. They're not going to sell their soul a second time. So, yes. Yeah, I don't, like I said, I have no investment in it, but the scenario that I experienced when I dipped my toe into the water was that I played through the first region, I started the second region and hit max level, and then realized that if I keep playing, I'm going to have to buy literally every piece of content they've ever released at full price.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the thing they're really trying to undercut. Like, all of that, you could still do that if you really wanted to play those old storylines, but it sounds like they're planning to treat this like a new era, pretty much. But it's not quite. It's not quite, Final Fantasy 14 reboot, but it's definitely at least, Burning Crusade reboot.
And honestly, I think this is the smartest I've ever seen a company do a game relaunch like this. When they've done it in such a way that a reasonable person could not be mad if they were playing the game during the time it was in the Activision era, moving onwards to this, because they get to keep most of the stuff that Activision was responsible for, the monetized cosmetic junk. But they can completely redesign the future game philosophy around something that makes sense and isn't stupid. Like, kill 1,000 enemies with this one specific pistol in a PvP match, and everybody in PvP is using this one pistol to get this quest done. Like, this is the kind of stuff that has Activision stink all over it, and it's all in the game.
Yeah, because Activision, as a body for oversight, really doesn't seem to understand video games, period. Like, they just don't get it.
Nah.
Yeah.
And people have said for a long time, and Blizzard have denied it over and over again, but I don't think it's really true, that the Activision Blizzard oversight process doesn't affect their development. Nobody believes that. Nobody does.
Yeah, that's all I
It's not. In fact, it's not even possible for it to be true. I think that it's not merely they're probably not telling the truth. I think it's not even logically possible for it to be true, because they are owned by Blizz Activision, and they have a responsibility to Blizz Activision to deliver certain content, and they have very, very strong and emphatic recommendations from above that you should do it this way. Like, there's no non-interference going on. That's a huge amount of financial pressure. But yeah, I hope it goes well for them. Like, it's not like they threw a lot of shade at Activision, and they placed a lot of blame on Activision. They are not blameless.
No.
Bungie made a lot of mistakes in Destiny 2 that have nothing to do with Activision, like their lawsuit against that music dude.
Oh, yeah. Marty O'Donnell.
Yeah, like that's not Activision's fault. Like, Bungie does stupid crap too.
Yeah.
But I hope that they make the most of this new opportunity, and that if they do right by their customers, and they focus on making a great game as opposed to the artificial money engine that Activision wanted, I hope it goes well for them.
Yeah, hey, I might be willing to dip a toe back in and have another go at it if they can write a good storyline.
If they call up Marty and be like, "Hey, look, the corporate overlords made everybody antsy. We done goofed." And Marty, in a miracle, comes back, I might consider playing the game again with the sound actually on, because Marty makes really good music.
I don't see that happening, but
yeah, it's probably
no. It's a total fantasy, but it's a potential future, maybe.
But I hope that they make the most of this fresh start. I think that they're probably going to be going forward in a rather positive sort of way. So hopefully there'll be a lot of internal reconciliation, and I just hope that they don't go, completely buck wild and try something insane. But
there were rumors of parties in the office on the day they broke away from Activision.
I don't think those are rumors. I think they were pretty much confirmed.
That's pretty much confirmed. I think what's interesting about that, though, is that what that shows us that it wasn't Activision interfering at sea level. It wasn't Activision just interfering at creative direction level. It was something that percolated the entire way down the company, to the point where even the in the trenches code monkeys were feeling the burden of Activision's oversight. So
would they have overseers like patrolling the cubicles?
It really seems like it sometimes.
Yeah. Oh, well, we'll wish the guys at Bungie the best of luck and see what they do with their reclaimed franchise.
Yep.
Yep.
All right, let me
Pickle.
see. Pickle. We have a whole bunch of EA stuff, but it's TV spurts.
Pickle.
Pickle.
TV
goodness.
spurts. Pickle.
There we go.
We've got announcements for the continuation of Anthem. Nobody cares.
Mhm. Oh, let's make fun of Google.
Okay, go ahead.
Let's do the Stadia thing. So the Stadia got its first bit of an info dump this week.
Stadia.
That thing.
Stevia.
I don't know why. I always see Stadia when I see it. I see an R
It's because
there.
it's a dumb name, is why.
It's because you're dyslexic.
No, it's just I don't know. But yeah. So let me make sure I'm doing this right, because it's not a very simple pricing model that we got for this service.
Of course.
So as for those that don't know, Google Stadia. Did it again. Google's Stadia is a video game streaming service where you can stream video games from a Google server straight to your TV or monitor. And we finally got some info on it. So the way it's going to work is there's going to be a free version and a paid version. Now, the free version appears to operate in... They want it... I imagine what they want it to operate like is something like Steam, but for streaming instead of downloading it to your PC. Where you can purchase a game if you do not pay for a Stadia account, and you will have access to it on the Stadia menu for as long as you want, whenever you want. The prices of these games will obviously vary by title. I don't know if there will be a discount since you're streaming the dang thing and you technically don't own it. There won't be. Spoilers. I have a crystal ball and can see the future. This is how I know this. Just
Made of
trust
common
me.
sense.
Yeah. But yeah. This is a thing that will happen. So there is the first tier of Google Stadia is some Stadia Pro thing that will have a rotating list of games on it for $10 a month that you can play. I don't think you get to keep them once they rotate out. If I understand it correctly, this was the least detailed of everything they released. So
It sounds like the one that needs to be kept to the closest eye on, then.
Yeah. So I think it operates like PS Plus, in that you will get 3 free games every month. I do not know if you get to keep them or not 3, but some number of them for $10 a month. And you get exclusive discounts, and you can purchase games in 4K and stuff like that, and a few other minor benefits like that. But yeah, it's not detailed, and it's being compared to Xbox Live Gold and PlayStation Plus. And then we have what they were advertising Stadia as initially for $129. Not per month, I don't think. I think it's a one-time purchase. I cannot actually confirm.
I think
yes. Yeah, I think it is. But still, for $130, you can download most, if not all, of their games catalog, or not download, but stream most, if not all, of their games catalog. Now, that sounds about like what we expected, but the real kicker here was how much bandwidth this is going to take.
All of it?
All of it.
Google owns all the bandwidth in the world. Like,
yeah, but it does not matter if there's an ocean between Google and you. So, you guys, especially you for in Australia, are notorious for having low megabits per second.
Mm-hmm.
They are saying to use Stadia at a competent level, you need 10 megabits.
Uh-huh.
That's
Well,
2.5 megabytes a second down.
the thing is that what they've been bragging about is 4K, right?
Mhm.
Like this is, I think that they've been lying through their teeth the entire time, because they've been saying, "Oh man, 4K, you can play 4K. We'll stream you 4K at, like, 35 megabit or whatever." Like, laying aside how many people have 35 megabit. They say that. However, on YouTube, to properly stream 4K, they recommend like 60 megabit, and even that's crap quality.
Yeah.
So they are either they have got voodoo in their encoding, or they are promising way above what will be delivered as a satisfactory experience.
My money would be on the latter.
Yeah. So
Even if they say 10, I would take that with a grain of salt, or a pinch of salt, or a dump truck full of salt, or the Dead Sea.
Just the Dead Sea, all of it.
The Dead Sea.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, sorry. 10 megabits per second is the minimum for. So 20 is the recommended.
Yeah.
And 35 is what they're claiming 4K can be streamed at.
YouTube disagrees. Like, if you ask for their recommendeds, it's like 45 to 60 or something.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not even like that's not even a game. Like, it's not even like. Can you even imagine a fighting game on this? Like, you might as well remove that entire genre from consideration.
Yeah, that's not going to happen.
Yeah, no fighting game will ever make it on Stadia and be profitable unless it is like single player focused or single player only for some dumb reason.
The FGC won't even play over a 30 millisecond internet connection. Like, that's a god ping, but FGC won't play under those conditions. There's 2 frames, mate.
There are characters where when their stuff gets nicked by 1 or 2 frames as a nerf, people will start losing their heads about it.
Well, what I've heard it said is that it's basically if you choose to play on locally versus on the internet, there's actually completely different game balance and tier lists based on the frame difference.
Yep, that is a true statement. Online warriors have a different tier list than arcade players and local players. Yep, that is true for quite a few fighting games. So yeah, and just the kicker on this, by the way, Stadia will not stream games to you at any resolution lower than 720p, which is why you need 10 megabits per second to even consider using it. And I bet you that's not enough. And let me tell you what that's like, okay? 10 megabits per second is about 2.5 megabytes per second downloaded on your internet speed. If that's your download speed, you have 10 megabits per second. You will have the minimum. Unless you live in one of the mega cities in the US with fiber lines, you ain't getting over 10 megabits a second. I have 14.5 on a cable line that is optimized for down at the cost of up speed.
I have the bog standard NBN package, and I don't meet those minimums.
Yep. I don't even know how to tell what I've got because I didn't set up the deal.
Yeah. I just know because I'm converting megabytes per second that I get when I download stuff at my peak. And this is at my peak. I peak at 14.5 if I have a good connection to a server. So not only are you buying a license, but you're also downloading from a server that is going to that's going to strain your entire tubes. Nobody else is going to be able to do anything while you're downloading this stuff. And the extra kicker, most ISPs nowadays have a data cap.
Your ISPs are actually adding data caps?
Yeah, right. And unless you can grandfather in a contract, a lot of them are trying real hard to get them in the US.
Yeah,
and they did not used to be
finally getting rid of them.
Yeah, they're trying real hard to push for them, and it hasn't made a lot of headway yet, but they are still in existence in several places around the world that are not third world countries.
It's been almost a decade since I had one.
Yeah, if you got a data cap of something like 60 gigabytes or something, that's it in an hour or 30 minutes. You're done.
She gone.
Like you can't use the internet anymore. Have fun paying the overcharge fees of $50 to $100.
Yeah, those overcharge fees get ridiculous.
Like, this is, I don't know what Google was thinking with this.
They're probably thinking that
Money,
You
money,
know.
money, 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 money.
The world is San
Well,
Francisco.
no, they're probably thinking that they're going to set up a new monopoly. Like they'll release this thing. The people that can use it will show. We'll basically show off how convenient it is, and then they will set up their own network and their own internet provision, get everybody on it, and rule the world.
Yeah, but as usual with Google's current guard, they are only successful when they take that success from somebody else. If they try to pioneer something themselves in-house, it flops.
Mm-hmm.
Or they mess it up horribly.
Cough, Google Glass, cough.
Oh,
Cough, Google Plus, the Google phone, everything except for Google Drive, basically,
basically.
that has had Google branding that they made in-house has flopped. And this seems exactly like that. But yeah, Google's being dumb. More info will come out on this throughout time. But
they've got a panel announced for sometime today, I believe.
Yeah, and they can show more rigged demonstrations, I'm sure.
Yeah. Don't trust a word of what Google says. Don't trust anything you see.
These are the people that removed "Don't be evil" as their motto.
Yeah.
That really tells you all you need to know. It's like, actually, I think that we need the freedom to be evil.
We're going to be just a little bit evil. It's fine.
Like, as a business, I feel like evil is the way forward.
Yeah. So, I do want to do a brief segue. In case you're wondering where all your favorite content curators have gone, they're currently fighting with Google.
Again.
This time, it's a little more serious in that they're not going to through Google to attack Google. They're taking the roundabout way and hitting advertisers, because a lot of people with one of the bigger latest movements that caused a ton of censorship on YouTube. I'm not going to get into specifics. So everybody knows about the Sad Apocalypse. You can go check it out yourself if you want to know more about that. Has decided, okay, fine. We tried to have the higher moral ground on this and just not respond to and sink to the level of our opponents. But clearly nobody's going to listen unless we do. And so all your favorite content curators have taken up arms to go and complain about Google to their advertisers and complain about Google to their YouTube audience if they haven't been completely banned yet. Because people that play video games, anybody to the right of Marx, all of them have been demonetized, banned, or had videos deleted on YouTube. And that is why you cannot get any news about your video games from YouTube, except for the most milquetoast center of sources. If you're wondering where they are, that's what they're busy doing. It was incredibly frustrating preparing for the show this week for me, because I had nobody who was curating the news, and it's happening on E3 weekend.
Mm-hmm. Oh boy. Just Google, why? Stop it.
Well,
Stop
why?
being
Because
evil.
they can. They're only doing it because they can.
Yes.
They think that this is the way forward, and it may. I don't know whether or not it will prove to be the way forward for them. I mean, we already are in a situation where YouTube doesn't make money. It just doesn't.
No.
It's not going to make money. It's never going to make money. That's part of how it operates. It serves other purposes for them, but so they aren't really concerned about if they lose people's business. That's less people that they're paying out to, basically. What they don't want is there to be a competitor. That would be bad. There was a competitor, that would be bad. So long as they are the biggest game in town, they don't need to worry about any of that. But a lot of people think that this was actually triggered by internal pay negotiations and stuff within Vox itself. But and that everything else is just collateral damage to that. But this sort of thought control, it's a massive legal problem for anybody who uses it, because the scenario that you end up in is one where you have curated content as an editorial force, therefore you lose your safe harbor status. And you end up being culpable for everything, which has a knock-on knee-jerk effect of you've got two choices: get sued by everybody or censor everything. Like you can no longer afford the risk of letting people use your safe harbor status, and you can no longer afford the risk of people using material under fair use, because if somebody decides it's not fair use, you've got no defense because you editorialized on the content by aggressively banning people who didn't meet your standards. So yeah, there's a lot of legal malarkey which can follow in the wake of this sort of behavior.
All
Yeah.
right. So,
But
what's
yeah.
the prediction? Stadia's going to flop horribly?
Yep.
I don't see how it could succeed unless, like I said, unless there is some incredible secret technology that Google have been pouring all of their research into, which is
Google
just going to
Loom.
revolutionize compression. Then, it's basically magic. Then you can't succeed with this plan.
Yeah,
People are not ready for this. I don't think people are ready for this.
Others
doesn't
have
matter
tried
if-
it.
It doesn't matter if they've got an in-house wizard box because the infrastructure isn't there. The lines are capped out at what they're
Well,
at.
I mean, all you need to look at is to look at it, right? Like, YouTube took years to really take off because it needed everybody to be able to use it, and that's relatively recent. That's like last like 8 years sort of thing.
2012 about, yeah.
Yeah.
Before that, YouTube was something some people used because they had what was it, DSL?
Yes.
Yep.
Because some people had DSL, most people didn't. Most people were on a modem or had ISDN or something.
I remember when I first got DSL and I could go to YouTube and eBombs World and all those other websites that had videos on them and watch them.
That was a great feeling.
Man, can we go back to the old internet, please?
Maybe?
Yes. We just have to kill Twitter.
Oh, yeah, we can do that.
That's literally all we have to do to go back to the old internet.
Remove Twitter and you solve a whole lot of problems.
Just shoot
What about
social media.
Facebook?
Well,
Really,
Facebook's not
Facebook.
as bad.
They're a crumbling corpse.
No, I think Facebook is better for communication, but worse in general. Worse for the human soul. I think that Twitter is like getting bitten by a poisonous spider. You might be able to get the antivenom in time. Facebook is like, ingesting 100 grams of arsenic with every meal for 10 years.
Oh my.
Like, it's not. It's something that will wear into your flesh and murder you.
I
It will
think it's-
dissolve you
I
slowly.
I think it's a little more comparable than that. I think that spider is like a Brazilian banana spider or something. That poison is going to kill you in like less than 3 minutes. You better have the antivenom on hand. Like, Twitter is not much better than Facebook in terms of the damage it does to you, and in some ways, it's even worse.
The economic impact is lower, though.
Yeah,
It is.
the social impact, though, holy crap! Just kill Twitter.
I don't know if it's gotten better or worse since they allowed you to write so much more.
People still write the small messages, and people will still only take part of it out of context.
It just breeds a culture of narcissism. I hate it. I hate it so much.
Yeah.
But yeah.
All right.
So yeah, that's what your YouTube creators are up to, and if you're wondering why E3 coverage is choppy, probably, and going to be choppy, it's because they're busy trying not to lose their way of living right now. They'll be back later.
Maybe.
Maybe. Probably not. Maybe they'll be on BitChute. Oh dear, oh dear.
All right. Other little bits and pieces. There's been a couple of other game trailers we can maybe mention. There's a new
I
Pokemon
think-
one. There's a reboot of.
No, I'm tired of that sheep. Let's not talk about the sheep.
That-
You have
Everyone's been talking about
an-
that sheep.
Yeah, I
have
know,
an-
and I'm sick of it.
I did not know the sheep was a thing until Vol mentioned it.
Because
to
you
me.
barely use the internet.
I don't use social media.
That's
The
'cause you
social
have a
media
soul.
is yeah. Social media is not the internet. Social media is poison on the internet.
You think everything is social media except YouTube, which is more social media than most things, which you for some reason exclude.
But you do not have to scroll to the social media part of the YouTube.
No, it presents it on the screen when you load up.
I don't think so. You do not do the interacting on YouTube. I think it is completely different if you don't comment.
Just avoid
I've
the
never
comment
commented on a YouTube video ever.
section.
I've
Neither
never
should you.
even looked. I've looked at a
Yeah.
YouTube comment section like 3 or 4 times, but I still get fed all the same crap.
Anyway, we're getting distracted.
You're wrong again.
Yeah, sure. Uh-huh. But anyway, the sheep and what else? You had one that was a big throwback that I didn't think much of until I actually clicked the trailer for that you linked.
The Destroy All Humans remake. I
Yeah,
loved this
I remember
game as a kid. It was probably my favorite game on the PS2. The first one, the second
Unfortunately, about 4 of those people are still alive. So
one. Why?
I never owned it, but I played it at a friend's house at least once.
Hmm.
But yeah, I do remember playing it at some point. But
So-
yeah, so I don't have a ton of nostalgia for it.
50s
I don't have
style
any.
Roswell
I never
type
played it.
alien. And you
I
destroy
can't
all
imagine
humans.
anybody. I can't imagine enough people buying this to actually justify the production cost. I honestly can't. This would be like somebody remaking Beautiful Joe.
Hey, that'll sell.
No, it
I don't
won't.
want, no, it won't.
No, it won't.
It won't sell. This is what I'm trying to say. Your reaction was it'll sell, but you know deep down that's not true.
Yeah.
It
And the
already-
same applies to this.
It's like remaking Okami, right? Everybody knows it was a great game, but it was part of the chain of Capcom great games that did not sell, either because of bad marketing at the time or because they just were too niche.
Mm-hmm.
But
Anyway, I'm still looking forward to this thing.
so there's a thing I want to comment on about this trailer.
Okay.
The game itself does not have any nostalgia value for me, other than as a game I was aware of and played once at least in my periphery. But the song in the trailer,
There's Rammstein.
I have not heard Rammstein since high school.
I know, right?
And then I had a thought. High school was over a decade ago.
And now you made us feel old.
Uh-huh.
You monster.
Well, I mean, I'm pretty sure that song is from that era. Like when did Rammstein release that song? Let's see if I can find out.
Shouldn't be that
Yeah,
hard to find.
Before WoW Vanilla.
2001.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's the right era. Dear.
So- yeah, that song is old.
Very,
it got
very
a-
old.
It got a good bit of run around the WoW community, I remember, because of the Stratholme boss.
Yeah.
So that's mostly where I remember hearing it.
So yeah.
Man, I wonder what the reaction was when they came to Rammstein's label and were like, "We need to license this German proletariat metal song from the early 2000s for our video game trailer."
Okay. It probably was pretty cheap because it's so old and hadn't been played on. Well, I assume it hadn't been played on the radio. Maybe it plays in Germany,
Hmm.
but I don't know. That song's been gone for a decade.
Yeah.
Completely faded from my mind as a thing that existed.
Rammstein even still making stuff.
Heck, if I know.
I think they made like a music video that was like legitimate, straight up pornography, like about a bit over 10 years ago, and then they fell off the map basically because they became untouchables.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't think they really did anything since then.
Yeah. All right. What else do we have to talk about this week?
So I just wanted to hammer home a point from me and Fern. The past few weeks, we have on and off throughout the past 2 months, we mentioned Borderlands.
Yes.
There is another DLC coming out for Borderlands.
Yes.
2, not the pre-sequel. So the pre-sequel is now officially acknowledged in-house as the lesser product.
As the dead end.
Well, it was made by Australians. I mean, come on.
Yeah. That's y'all Southern Hemisphere conflict. Y'all can fight that one out.
So, incidentally, by the way, the Handsome Pack is available free on PS Plus. Go get.
It is. I'll make another Maya and play with pretty much anybody.
You keep playing Maya?
Yeah, she's the general I just want to have fun character.
Fair enough.
Girls just want to have fun and stuff and some junk.
Even weird psychic girls.
Yep. So, that's all the highlights I had for this week.
I think that's about it. A lot of the stuff has been overshadowed by 3.
Did I just accidentally launch Borderlands 2 because we were talking about it?
Do you have voice activation?
No, I was clicking around and I think I accidentally clicked the Borderlands 2 button.
Stupid brain.
And now I can't work out how to turn on my monitor so I can stop it from playing sound at me. We missed an important story, though.
Oh, did we?
Oh, we did?
Yeah, which was Blizzard's game cancellation.
Oh, right.
Oh. I didn't take notes on this.
So, Blizzard have killed a bunch of stuff.
Again.
The two main ones is that they killed one of their major mobile offerings, which unfortunately was not Diablo Immortal.
Well,
but
poo.
Let's be realistic. Diablo Immortal is not being developed for normal people. It's not being developed for our people. It's being developed for
crab people.
People on the Chinese market who play clone mobile games.
Mm.
Like there's just sort of like an ambiguous pool of money that you are allowed to reach into and take a scoop out of. That's pretty much how that works. But the other thing that they killed was another StarCraft shooter, basically.
Okay, they were having another crack at Ghost.
I don't think that they were having another crack at Ghost, but they were making a first-person shooter for StarCraft. But they just decided to no, we're done. Cancel it. Like this is a sort of a long-running Blizzard thing that they just tend to X projects sometimes. But it seems like they've got internal shortages of staff by the apparent appearance. So they're just reallocating people. That basically means the upcoming projects, of course, are Overwatch 2 and Diablo 4. You know, Diablo 4, the game everybody knew existed, but for some reason they wanted to commit seppuku on stage instead of announcing it last year.
Still don't get that.
Yeah, but and also Overwatch 2, which mystifyingly is going to be a PvE focused game. I'm not really sure what what I presume, and this is completely baseless, they mean by that is it's going to be some sort of like multiplayer horde mode type thing, as opposed to that would be my guess. It's just an arbitrary guess because people are saying it's PvE. It's slanted in the direction of PvE more than Overwatch 1. But yeah, that's their other major project. So if they're desperately trying to reallocate staff onto this, number one, it means they're running out of staff. Number two, it means that mobile developing does strangle development on other projects. You know, projects people actually care about.
Mm-hmm.
It totally
doesn't.
Because
if that development is considered resources that they can reallocate to real projects, that means that they actually are, were, and to some extent are, just making a straight up dollar pitch down the center of the mobile space, which to a certain extent, Diablo Immortal doesn't represent that because it's being developed by a Chinese developer under a Chinese publisher for Chinese players. Which is, it's just every time I think about it, it makes it stranger to me that they announced it to, American PC gamers.
But don't you guys have phones?
Like, why would you want to do that to yourself? It's so humiliating. Now, that was one of the things that really kicked off our recent grand season of major publisher humiliation, really, wasn't it?
It was among them, yes.
Yeah.
Right around
Anthem, Todd the
Mm.
Liar and his Fallout.
Tell me lies. Tell me sweet little lies.
Tell me lies.
And I don't think they're very credible lies, generally speaking. Like he
Considering
acts
the
as though,
source.
yeah, he acts as though it's sort of an alien idea to him. He alternately acts, but the way it's like it's an alien idea to him that his games have problems, and like, oh well, they've got tons of problems, but you guys love that, right?
To a point.
No, I don't love them at all.
No.
I think his
Right.
problems go sod off. He should develop a game that's finished.
Yes.
The
It's not my
whole
job
game-
to finish it for him. It's not the modding community's job to finish it for him. We pay him for a reason. It's because we want a game. We don't want a disaster.
Yes. Molyneux, who's that?
Obsidian made a good game using their property. Why can't they do it?
Yeah.
They had a really
Ser-
good game.
Seriously, Todd. you
Octal
could-
disagrees.
Yeah. He could at least get his games to functional. The rest of the gaming industry needs to work up to finished. But if Todd could just get his games to functional,
Like, maybe pre-alpha.
yeah, like get us into closed beta. Then we'll call it, a step up for Bethesda.
Yeah, he spun out a massive spiel about that recently, in fact, and where he claimed that, oh yeah, we know people are going to be critical because it's something that wasn't very typical for us to develop, and we knew it wasn't going to do very well. I mean, it wasn't a game we made for Metacritic, so I just tried to play it all off like everything went exactly as planned, and it was all like within the scope of what they expected, and it was such a disgusting pantomime. Like, you don't live in the real world, do you, mate? That people will actually buy into that.
2 words: canvas bags.
The canvas bags, the infamous
so
canvas
many-
bags.
Well, I'm not really surprised that so many people didn't care about that in the commentariat because, they didn't pay for those. Bethesda sent them to the YouTube influencers for free.
Hmm. Besides, there was plenty in the actual game itself to pan.
I mean, it supplied the news cycle for weeks.
It still pops up occasionally.
I watched one of the guys I follow on YouTube make a 1 hour and 40-minute montage of all the problems, bugs, and glitches he had playing through Fallout 76's main story.
If you could call it a story.
And they were not small.
No.
That he just was like major glitches and did not include crashes. And the montage went on for 1 hour and 40 minutes.
Well, even from my experience, I ran into crashes and bugs and all sorts of other shenanigans. It's just, anyway.
Yeah. And speaking of Anthem, they've hit a few more bumps in the road. It seems, and like they've again scrapped their roadmap. I think that they've realised that there's no actual saving this. Like from where they're standing, they can't get to the place they want to be. There's no path in between those two things.
Is anyone actually still playing Anthem?
I'm not sure anybody's still developing it. I think that they were probably all leaving.
Or fired.
Or fired.
Yeah, there's been a lot of those.
Anthem, it was big news for about a week, and then it just vanished.
And there's a lot of companies making themselves look bad and making other companies look good by proxy. Like I remember Assassin's Creed Unity being a catastrophe, but it's been a while since Ubisoft screwed up that bad.
Yeah.
It's not like they've done anything especially awesome, but because everybody else has been so bad lately, they kind of look good.
If you can just avoid making a ripple in the gaming news sphere right now by just not doing anything monumentally stupid, you're probably okay as a developer.
Is Tom Clancy an Ubi thing?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, they did pretty well with their recent Division thing. Their newer version of the Division. Apparently, that's done pretty well, and apparently they actually did a pretty good rearguard save the game action on Division 1 to get that one up and running after it flopped. But yeah, they're looking pretty good, and it seems like that's the way that you build a reputation as a games publisher these days, is you screw up less badly than the other guys.
and the Tom Clancy people specifically, I believe they have they're the group that often has troubled developments and sometimes troubled releases, and is usually able to rally the hardest. So
Yeah,
from what I've
I
heard,
think it's because there's pretty much there's pretty much only one place you can go to get sort of no nonsense contemporary shooter action, and that's those Tom Clancy games, because Modern Warfare has gone all fruity on everybody, and it's being made by lunatics. So did you hear what they've named the latest Modern Warfare?
It can't be any dumber than some of the other names they've come out with.
No, they're naming it Call of Duty Modern Warfare.
Wait, what? They've
Just gone back. Yeah, I know. They're using it again.
But it's the Xbox One situation.
Right on the back of them re-releasing Call of Duty Modern Warfare in the HD remake.
Call of Duty Modern Warfare, the only good one.
So there are now 2 Call of Duty Modern Warfares that are going to be in the wild simultaneously. And all of the grandmothers are going to get very confused trying to illicitly buy a game for their child who hasn't totally not hit the age of 18 yet.
Who in the world is the marketing people for these companies?
Drunk.
It's probably just one guy, and he's managed to farm out his work to everybody.
Is it like one marketing firm? Do they just like I can't even with gaming marketing. Video game marketing is so bad it's funny.
Well, everybody's picking dumb names for things these days, like Stadia.
Yeah.
I still say it sounds like an artificial sweetener.
An Anthem.
That's just generic.
It doesn't mean anything.
No.
It didn't even have a title according to the op-ed until they were told they had to announce it and they had to pick a name.
No, what I heard is that it did have a name, but they scrapped it in favor of calling it Anthem because Anthem was super generic.
It kind of sums up the project as a whole, really, doesn't it?
Oh dear. Well, the project is basically the product of C-level staff watching too much Marvel Cinematic Universe, pretty much.
Yeah. All right. In that case, we should probably start wrapping up.
We should. Email topic of the week. So you can list all the reasons Google Stadia is a horrible idea and why you're not going to buy it. In fact, how much are you not going to buy it? Like, what degree of I'm not going to buy this are you at? Because we know you're not going to buy it. Nobody's going to buy this.
I'll give you mine to start you off. I'm going to treat it like an EA product.
I'm pretty sure they just want everybody to buy a Chromecast or something.
Like,
no, that's all. This is a very sort of on the down low, incognito Chromecast marketing project. It's not actually a product.
Like, I am treating this like Capcom right before the Monster Hunter World and recent rally they just had. Like, they are, this thing is as bad as that. That is what level of not buying we're at.
Old school Capcom, eh?
Well, not old school Capcom, but like before the rally Capcom that happened around Monster Hunter World.
All right.
So, yeah. And I think we're done, folks. Y'all got anything?
Not really. I'm going to have a whole lot of free time, hopefully, very soon. I have no idea what I'm going to be able to do with it.
Yo, video games.
That'll do for a bit.
There was another. Just I'm not going to talk about it because I don't know the details. But apparently, the Epic Store messed up its pricing again in a new way.
In other news, the sky is blue.
Oh, something to do with the regional currency adjustments went nuts or something. I don't know the details. But it's like they can't go a week. They just can't. It's not possible.
Nah. I was thinking we'd actually gotten away with it for a week without panning the Epic Store, but you got it in there.
Well, they keep doing things.
It's impressive. It's impressive how bad they keep screwing up, or more operatively, how frequently they keep screwing up. I didn't think somebody could keep messing up this much.
This is just they are thinking with their wallet.
They're stupid, stupid wallets.
It is a very stupid wallet because it's not going to have any money in it. Except for the Fortnite money it's already got.
Which is unfortunately still going gangbusters, so the epic Manios aren't going to run out anytime soon. Not before the 4th Death Star is constructed, at least.
If some poor young child stumbles upon this YouTube video, let me just tell you right now, don't play Fortnite. It's bad for you. Go play some real good video games. Impress your friends. Show them that you can, like, beat Mario or something. Go beat the NES Mario. Stay away from Fortnite. It's bad for you.
But Ari, all of the cool gamers on Twitch are playing it.
Yeah. Do you really want, like? No, I don't even have a joke for that. No, I can't do it.
But isn't that how they reason their way to the games that they choose these days?
It's the person they watch every day plays it on YouTube. I think that's what I assume they do. But that's the impression I get. I don't know if it's true or not. But yeah. Yeah, folks, I think we are done. Before we go off on another tangent, I'm going to go ahead and wrap us up.
Do it.
So, we will see y'all next week. Sayonara, bye-bye.